Right.
We can talk about
So yeah, so I mean I can start in the beginning from like before I went to Korea if you'd like to get a full like I don't know
Yeah,
how much of a deep
Oh
dive
yeah,
you
yeah,
want.
for sure.
So
Yeah, yeah. Let's
we
go to the
we want the
backstory.
whole story.
yeah.
You're being interrogated,
So
right? I mean, you're being
yeah,
interviewed right now.
interviewed. Yeah. So started off in England, of course. Lived there in North London. So my whole life, same house, whatever, same area. And then so in English college, which is high school for us, it's a 2 year thing. So you do your GCSEs when you're 16, which if you get decent results, you'll get to a sixth form, which is like a secondary, like high school education. And that's 2 years. So the first year you study four subjects in like super great detail. It's still a lot. It sounds like four subjects doesn't sound like a lot, but it's quite in depth. And then after the first year, you do an exam. You need to get four Ds or four Cs to get into the second year, which sounds simple enough, but a lot of my friends didn't continue with their education after sixth form, which is going to be relevant in a bit. So I think there was like 10 of us guys or 12 of us guys we went to the same middle school because it was on the same campus for us. It was a big campus. And so a lot of my friends chose to go to a different. So if you fail those exams or you drop out, you can go to a different one and take it again, or you can just go into the workforce and do an apprenticeship, building or whatever. And yeah, so we only a couple of my friends got into the second year. So I'm here in the second year of my high school with two mates, you know. So I was kind of turned off education from that point. So I ended up getting decent grades in the end and got an offer to go to uni, but I think it's the same in the US. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the fees are going up, but the value of a degree is just like plummeted. Because I mean, like whatever, like 50%, 40% of people have a degree now. So you
Yeah.
know, it,
Yeah,
so
it's kind of become the new joke that a college degree is the new high school diploma in the US.
yeah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that was essentially the problem. So I had the offer on the table to do. It was a Bachelor of Science in Geography. It's like volcanoes, oil. It just seemed like it wasn't even. I had no passion, but it was like, dude, I did geography in A levels. It was my best grade, so like, let's just do geography. There's loads of jobs. It was like a very practical
Wait, so
thinking,
you're
but
limited by the type of major that you can study based off of your score?
yeah, basically, because I mean, if you study whatever like drama and arts, it won't let you do a medical degree or a chemistry or a science degree because you have the base of knowledge. You need a base knowledge. So that's why a lot of A levels, there's not many. You take 4 3 classes, right? But it's in pretty good details. It's basically the basic knowledge you need to kind of get your foot in the door for university. Without that, you're kind of
So
screwed.
it's
Otherwise, it would be a 4 year degree.
yeah, so it's like you're doing your first 2 years of college,
I'd say
so to
like
speak, as high school or
stretched out. Yeah,
intro.
yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah. So it's like your
Yeah.
first year stretched out into two. But
So you have
so
to
yeah.
really choose. Why I don't know how I feel about that because you have to choose
Mhm.
wisely what sort of prerequisite classes or intro classes that you
Mhm.
want to take. Otherwise, you can't take specific majors once you do get past that point. And it seems
Mhm.
it's like is it a one and done deal?
And also, you take it when you're 16 as well. You pick when you're
Yeah.
16,
Oh,
just graduate middle school. So I think you can do an extra year in uni. So let's say suddenly you get a passion for whatever. You can take a foundation year where you learn the A level stuff in a university. But, high school is free, right? But then you have to do another year of uni and it's expensive. So that turns some people off. But it is possible if you get the right grades. But you can take a foundation year if you really want to. But yeah, that's another year of uni, which is a lot of time, no more money.
mhm. Yeah.
But
Agreed.
Now, what's the cost of education there?
oh, I can double check, but it's when I was applying, I sound like an old man, but when I was applying, I think it was like 12,000 pounds. But what
So
I
let's
find
say that
interesting
mm,
is it's every university is the same. So the best so right now it's £9,250. I'll just check what that is in dollars. It's
like 12,000.
9,250 in dollars. Yeah, like $12,000 ish. And that's just the school fees, right? But then you got to pay for accommodation and whatever. So I saw that and I was like, let me not rush this decision because I saw so much about, on Instagram and stuff. People were like saying, screw college, I'm not going. It's a trap. So, and also I had no passion. A lot of my friends didn't go to college. I was naive. I was like 18 or whatever. So I was very like headstrong and stubborn. So I was like to my mum, yeah, I might just not go uni. And then she's like, you're going uni. That was a very big thing for her that all her sons went to uni. So I was like, we came to a middle ground where I was like, let me take a year off. Take a year off, I'll work, I'll make some money, experience the real world, then I'll go. And then I moved to Australia in that year off.
Mhm.
And then while living there, I was living with Koreans in a share house. So they taught me some stuff, told me about Seoul, and I was like, dude, like I'm young. I'd know like prior, I wasn't a K-pop fan or a K-drama. I knew nothing really about the country, but it's hanging out with these guys like on a one-on-one basis. There's guys and girls, and they were really nice to me. They were older. I was 18. They were in their late 20s and 30s. Eating together, listen to them speak Korean, have a drink with them. It just seemed like a cool experience, I guess. So yeah, went to Seoul.
But still, even then, having the stones, having the balls to be like
Right.
moving literally across the freaking globe to Australia,
Yeah.
and like why why Australia, and like what type of job did you do when you were there?
So a lot of my
Um,
family live in Australia. There's a lot of English people. So after the World War, all of my family were factory workers. So there was, and it used to be a colony of England, like a lot of countries were. And then, so they offered like £10 visas. You get £10, you go to Australia on a boat, and you're never coming back. There's no phones, there's no nothing, right? So all of my family, the factories are bombed, so their office is rubble. So they were like, cool, let's bounce to Australia. And my grandma, she had started dating my granddad, and she was like, yo, I kind of love this guy, I want to marry him, so I'm going to stay put in England. And she was like 20 something in nurse school. So she was left alone, and then that's the only reason I'm talking to you about Australian accent, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
So,
it's still nonetheless. It seems
mm,
like with your guys' educational system, you have to make important decisions that
mm,
really lock in your future at a very young at middle school. That the way it's
mm,
different for us is that we basically go through middle school as normal students or whatever. We don't have to take any major tests. And when you get to your third or fourth year, your third or fourth year of secondary school, that's when you take the SAT, which
mm,
is supposed to be, I have mixed feelings about the SAT. It's supposed to be a culmination of the material that you learn. If I'm being so real with you, it's not. In my opinion, I think the SAT is one big gotcha test, and we can probably get into
mm,
this a little bit later. I'll need to do more research, but there's a correlation.
mm,
The higher your test score is, the more likely the higher your family income is. But
mm,
yeah. So, and once you do take the SAT, then you take that score and you apply to different colleges across the country or in your state or where you live or whatever. And, when you do get to university, even regardless of what you took in high school, you can, for the most part, change your major. And like, let's
mm,
say you go in for drama for your first year of college or whatnot, and you take an intro computing class, and you're like, I want to change to computer science. Then you can change your major or, change your classes. And then after about a semester or two, then you'll officially declare or officially change from a drama major to a computer science major or vice versa.
wow.
But yeah, my point being is that we have a lot more wiggle room and
Yeah.
freedom to change our paths once we start university or whatnot, even in the middle. Like, even if we were to drop out or change schools, we could always go back at our own discretion. But at the same time, I feel like the trade-off, even from the numbers you just pulled up, it's way more expensive. I'd say the drawback is
Mm,
that it is definitely more expensive for us, even with um, government grants and scholarships or whatnot,
mm,
if you don't make enough money. But
yeah.
if your family makes too much money, good luck. You're going to have to take out loans.
But
But
so I'm curious about the SAT thing. So, like in England, we're going to get like specific grades, right? So, let's say you take maths and science or whatever. You get an A in science and an A in maths. So, when I applied to university, They were like, you need two A stars in a B or two A's in a B. And it doesn't matter what you get it in because those fit with the degree you're doing. Let's say, because you said you can pick your major, right? Like drama to engineering. What if you get like
Yeah.
a B or a C, like kind of an average or lower grade in maths, a great grade in drama? So you start with drama. The SAT like an overall score, or
You
is it like specifics come into it?
it's really
It's like a separate standardized test that you have to
yeah,
take.
it's a separate standardized test, and the different sections that they have. In my opinion, it's mainly there are math, but it's mainly reading comprehension from what I remember taking it. That's what its
Mm,
biggest focus is on.
Hmm.
And so even if you were to score, it's the overall score is what matters. It doesn't
mm.
matter what you scored in the math section. It's all about your composite or overall
Oh.
score. So you could do
Mm.
relatively bad in the math section. Universities don't care. They only care about your overall score.
That's
So
crazy. That
yeah,
seems a bit odd to me,
over
man. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think every education system's got its flaw, right? But if you get like kind of overall thing, seems a bit weird to me. I think it's good to kind of specify. I mean, like you said, it's a big decision to make when you're 16, but if you get to specify at that age, then that kind of allows you to gain deeper knowledge. Then a bunch of like kind of random reading comprehension, you go into an engineering degree, you're going to be like,
yeah,
yeah.
literally be.
Yeah, literally the SAT, it's like not even applicable to any college stuff. It's just literally a standardized test that you take, and it's a separate thing that you have to submit to colleges when you apply. And actually, when Romeo's brought up the income thing, I could totally see that being true, even though I don't know how true
Mm,
that statement is. But it's almost like it's not even a fair evaluation of your actual skills. It's more so an evaluation of how well you can take tests. Because
Right.
yeah, you'll have like higher income families spend a ton of money on hiring like tutors and like obviously, and you can take it multiple times too until you get the score that you want.
right, okay.
That just requires more money.
Yeah,
Mm,
I took the SAT twice, and I did not take the time as much time. I didn't take as much time studying as I should have. And my
mm,
score was literally average the second time I took it.
mm.
Like, I'm not joking. Literally freaking average. And which is not, it's not a bad thing, but yours truly was not going to a prestigious university by any means
Mm,
whatsoever. And that is, like Austin said, tutoring. I didn't realize this. I was like, man, I should have lobbied my family for more, one-on-one tutoring or whatnot,
mm,
because that is what really gives you the leg up. And I remember the year I taking, which was in 20 late 2018, early 2019 or whatever. Apparently, the test got leaked, or
oh,
the test got leaked before for the international students. And so allegedly
mm,
they got an early access to the test and they got to take that as their practice test before they came over. And that caused a whole like bunch of controversy or a whole bunch of drama and people
mm,
online. A whole bunch of antsy, anxious, and angry 18, 17, and 18-year-olds ranting online about how it's or whatever.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
overall, the system is a lot different. I feel like all you guys don't really have as much of a choice. You guys really lock
mm,
in and make your decisions early on, and
yeah.
you could say the benefit to that is that, like you said, your depth of knowledge is far more specific and deep. And with us, we do get more freedom to change, but the cost is much greater.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can get that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's kind of like, what would I want? Would I want to have to make a decision early on at the age of 16 with
Yeah.
less debt, or do I want slightly more debt and having the freedom to change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
That's
think
true.
Aiden, you were about to get into. You said it's the same price across all the universities.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised about with because I don't know, I'm not an expert, so please feel to correct me if I'm wrong, but if you go out of state, you pay more, and if you go to the better
Yeah,
universities, so was it Harvard's probably the best, right? Or MIT, or I mean, it depends on the
Yeah,
major, I guess.
Yeah, so there's in and out of state tuition, and then there's also public versus private universities.
Right. Yeah, so all of our universities are the same price. So like there's a ranking like in America. So in the UK, Oxford and Cambridge, they one will go above the other, right? It's like up and down, up and down. They'll cost the same tuition wise as the work at least university, which I think that's fair enough, right? Because if you're willing to put in the work, but you're from a lower income bracket, you should have the same access. I say the same access, but it's still ridiculously expensive. But I think that's a pretty good system, at least, except foreign students. So foreign students pay double, I think. No, maybe not double, but like a crazy, crazy amount. So, and that's the only reason I think people are saying that these universities are not going bankrupt. They need these foreign students from like wealthy families from abroad, from I think China, India. They're some of the biggest. Like you go to English campuses and there's a huge Chinese international. And then like I was going to my brother's uni dorm, and it's obviously not the best. It's a uni dorm, right? Everyone's broke, everyone's whatever. And this Chinese guy was putting up in American imported cars, like matte paint, and like yeah. I mean, they're helping the places stay open, so I can't really complain, right? But yeah, price wise, I think it's good.
Yeah, it's no different with foreign and the Chinese international students that were here.
Yeah.
This I was watching a video essay on YouTube, and the guy explained the reason why that is because the Gaokao, which is their version of the SAT, it's like far more serious,
Mm,
and it's it's a pretty damn tough test. Even talking with Chinese students that I've encountered when I was in Korea and over here, it's much easier to attend universities abroad outside of China because, according to this guy's video essay, in order to get into a good school in China, you need a 90%.
that's insane.
Oh, you need a 90%. Whereas, say, Australia, schools in Australia and the US, you may need a 60% or even a 40%
Yeah.
to attend. Additionally, apparently, it also allows them to move money abroad. So
Mm,
outside of China, out into different corners of the world for education purposes. So
yeah.
it's under legitimate
Definitely
reason.
beneficial.
And yeah, and I think he said that there's a limit to how much money can be taken out of mainland China by Chinese citizens. I think he said it was 50,000. And so even then, that's going to raise suspicion from the government. And
Yeah.
no one, no one wants that. But yeah, it's become an interesting conversation now. Like people are starting to realize that even it's the same case with our universities, how international students really are like the backbone of
Yeah.
American academia. Even under the Trump administration, when COVID was starting to kick off, he briefly, for 1 second, was like, "I'm thinking about revoking the visas for foreigners that are under an academic visa," and
Yeah.
instantaneously, all
Yeah.
of the colleges were like, "You
Yeah.
freaking not, bro," because that's the majority of their STEM departments right there are
Yeah. Yeah.
professors on foreign visas or foreign nationals. It's like, yeah, oh
But
my
it's funny
goodness.
you say that because it kind of leads into what I think was one of the things you went to talk about with was applying to the university itself in Seoul, and I think it kind of holds true for career as well. I say the majority of this is just me from eyeballing the introduction class I sat in. I would say 50 to 60% of because I'm a foreign full time student instead of a transfer, so I would say 60% are Chinese probably.
60%.
Yeah, easily. And you talk with them. So to get into university, like I said, I've been there for 3 years, but I'm in my second year of university because I did 1 year in a language school. So you get these grades to take, you can either take the national topic exam. You need like out of six being the highest, one being the lowest, either 4 or 5 to get in, and six to, depending on the school. The best schools is six to, for average schools, it'd be like a 5 or 4. Although I took by one on campus, so I had a campus score only at Kongguk. and so I could only apply to that university. So I didn't have a choice. If I didn't get into that, then I'm kind of like screwed, right? But and then yeah, so I had to study at the language school. It took me a year. I guess if you're smarter, it can take you a shorter time, and then keeping grades from home. So I came into it's such a difficult process getting all these documents because they were like, we need your official English birth certificate. I had to call out my mom, like, yo, can you send me my birth certificate? And she's like, the actual, we can't like, photocopy it and send it. Like, no, we need the official. So I got this like raggedy piece of paper, like 23-year-old A4 sheet from the hospital, and then all these documents. So I'm like stressing to get all this stuff in. You need like a certain amount of money in your bank account. You need all this stuff to get the visa. To get accepted, then the visa actually is quite easy because you just give them the school stuff saying you've been accepted in your house and whatever. But I remember getting all these documents and I got a call from the office like, yo, you need to come to the office now. They're like, dude, what is this stuff? Because I think I'm one of the first English. There's not many English full-time students. So they were like,
Right.
why have you only done like 3 subjects in high school? Like, what is English high school like? You were there for like 2 years and your middle school was like a year longer. And I was like, dude, I know. And they were like, can you give us different stuff? I'm like, dude, I don't have like these are my results. I can't change it. That's the education. But they were cool in the end. I had a meeting with a lady in the office and graciously explained to her the situation. She was cool with it. They want the money. I think it's the same. I mean, we pay the same as the Korean students, but I think they want more foreign students at every university in Korea. It gives it a nicer kind of image, a more global, developed country style, I think. So, yeah.
I really relate. The people who are listening, you can't see it, but I was making a whole bunch of faces when you talked about giving paper. It's had to drive,
Yep.
let's say, about a good 3.5 hours to the Korean consulate. But yes, that they are very, very thorough. Like I remember I had to not only get an official, not an unofficial, but an official transcript, which you have to now it costs money to pay for it. They wanted birth certificate, official transcript. They wanted bank statements. They
Yeah.
specifically, I thought I could like be cheeky and like give them a copy of, say, like my freaking checking account from 3 months prior or earlier in the year. They're like, no,
Oh,
we,
no.
yeah, they're like, she was looking at me like, yeah, no, we need this from the most recent 3 months, sir. Thank you.
Mm.
And,
They're smart, right? They're not going to be fooled
passport.
easily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, passport and proof of acceptance to Konkuk University and all of this. And even after all of that, I remember I gave her all of these documents, and she was like, "How do I know that you're a student at this school?" I'm like, okay, all right. And I legit got out my student ID. I'm like, okay, so this is me. And she's like, okay, but like, how do I know that that's you though? That like this is you, even with my photocopy. I'm like, okay, you see the numbers? That's my student number right there. That's my student number on my on my transcript. And she's like, all right, cool.
I mean,
The
yeah,
whole,
they're
yeah,
on it. I mean, I had the benefit of being in the actual country. I think that's way easier than having to wait till the Koreans are awake. Because I did that to get my original like visa to go there for language school. You got all these questions, I was like 20 years old and I was like, I'm gonna call them up, wait till like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock when they were waking up as they first opened the office. International phone call, like, hey, is this document right? Do I have to give this? How many pictures do I need? It's like that's the biggest pain, I think. Getting that was such a ball ache. And especially when you're kind of young as well. I don't know, maybe I'm a mommy's boy, but you kind of want your parents to help you with this kind of stuff, right? Like, I don't know, if I was doing it in England, my
mm,
mom could help me out, but she's like, it's all in Korean. You're on your own. Like, I can't help you. So it worked out in the end. So it was an adventure, I guess. But yeah, we got through it.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
good.
So Aiden, for you, actually, I had a question about like the language barrier. So are you
Yeah,
like fluent in Korean now?
I think I would say no, just because I think I don't want to sound too philosophical, but I think fluency is a difficult thing to kind of define, right? What is fluency? It sounds a bit wishy-washy, but
Mhm.
in terms of Can I have a conversation? Yeah, that's not, or like, going to a restaurant, going to the cinema, on the train. If I have a question, generally I can ask. But even now, I'm in my second year, second semester. It's pretty difficult. All my classmates, there's some foreign students, but basically all Korean. It's all in Korean class, so it's definitely a big language barrier. But I have to say the most professors are bilingual, even if they're not like super comfortable with speaking English. If it really comes down to it, they can help you out, and they've all been pretty nice actually. I'm not
Yeah.
sponsored by Congo, but they've all been pretty cool, and they're like, if you're putting in the work, they're willing to give you a hand. If you're slacking, then they're not going to give you anything. But if you are trying your best, but there is a language barrier, they'll be nice, I think. And same with the students as well. I've not dealt with anything crazy yet from any students, but yeah, it's definitely improved
Gotcha.
over the semester. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, had you taken any Korean classes?
Yeah, so I was in a language school for a year before I actually applied because I needed the grades, but it's so different, like doing this language tests and then being dropped off in the world, and there's got like everyone's got accents and like business stuff. And but then the first couple of semesters actually you have required classes for foreign students. They teach you about manners, how to address your professor, how to basically it's basically how to send an email, what to include so the professor knows. Like it sounds basic, but again, Korea has certain like manners and there's like levels to the language. There's a more formal way of speaking, a more casual way. So I'd say, yeah, you kind of get the support they can give you, but ultimately it's kind of up to you to an extent. Like you can lead a horse to water, but you can lead a guy to Korea, but you can't make him learn Korean kind of shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is honestly one of the realest statements right there,
Yeah.
because I was quite surprised at how many people have been in Korea, how many foreigners have been in Korea and did not take the time to learn the language or want to learn a part of the culture or whatever and
Mm,
whatnot. And I'm not saying you have to, go all out,
yeah.
but even like basic manners, which you were talking about, basic manners like handing someone something with two hands, even though
Yeah.
it's really formal, but still nonetheless are doing this right here,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
at the very least, like, put in some effort. But it it really showed, like when I showed that basic understanding of the culture or whatnot, I noticed that a lot of Koreans, they relaxed, even with the basic
Mm,
introduction, like 안녕하세요, 저는 로미오군 and whatnot, and
yeah.
they're like, oh, okay, okay, he speaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey. I remember even one shop couple, they were like, 여보, 이거 외국인 한국, like this foreigner speaks,
Yeah.
this foreigner speaks some Korean or whatnot. But like what you were talking about, the whole thing with fluency, I even talked with my tutor about this or whatnot,
Mm,
and one of his biggest gripes for when it comes to people saying that they're fluent in a language is that really they're conversational, basic
yeah.
conversational level. What I've even noticed is that even with the language, I know for a fact it's going to be years before I become fluent in the language itself, because you get to the point where you know what you know
Yeah.
and you realize what you don't know. And it seems like quite a bit. So even though you are, in my opinion, I would say you are conversationally fluent, Aiden, you know your limits. Like I know for a fact I can only do so much in a basic conversation.
Yeah.
Cannot read the newspaper.
Yeah.
I could
Well,
get,
that's the thing. Yeah.
yeah, I could get bits and chunks of it, but still nonetheless. And even you don't necessarily have to be fluent in Korean while you're over there. Like the same thing happened when I got over there. My professors, I showed basic customs and courtesies,
Mm.
basic Korean, and they both all really kind of like sat me down, like, so you know a little bit of Korean. Oh, you wrote your name in Korean Hangul. Okay. So are you here to like dick around or are you here to actually like learn? I need to know up front.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm here to learn. Okay. All right. and,
Yeah.
and with them all speaking English, the funny thing is that I found a professor that went to my university.
That's
Like,
crazy.
yeah, no, because like I'm walking around campus before school starts, and I just see someone in my school's merch. I'm like, what the fuck happened? I
Yeah.
did the whole introduction, and I'm like, he's so like unbothered. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Like speaking in perfect English, like, oh yeah, I went there for my master's and PhD in electrical engineering.
Damn.
Yeah, nice to meet you. All right, F off. He's like, have a good
Yeah.
day. But yeah, I was quite surprised at how accommodating they were. And it really is, like you said, if you are putting in the effort, if they see that you're putting in the effort to learn not only the material, the language, the culture, they will work with you. Full
I
stop.
think there's no, I mean, I don't need to do a blanket statement, but I think when it comes to certain levels of foreigner hate, I think it's less hate. So, like, one experience I had was when I was looking for an apartment, because I used to live in a goshiwon, which for people who don't know, it's like you rent a small room in a building. When I say a small room, I mean a small room, like a bed, and then the walls next to you. Like, and I'm a decently tall guy. I'm like 6'2" or whatever, and like that's messed up my back pretty badly, you
Uh-huh.
know. So like living there, you can kind of do whatever. It's super cheap. I was paying like $200 a month to live in there. It's squalor, but then I was like, I saved up some money to get a deposit on it because I was going to be here for 4 years. It's like it's worth the investment, and you know, I'd call these people in Korean. Like I said, conversational, but I've clearly got an accent. And they'd be like, "Oh, are you foreign?" I'd be like, "Yeah," and they'd be like, "Yeah, no, bro." And then it doesn't necessarily come from them hating me or thinking they're better than me or whatever, but it's like, what's he going to be doing in the house? Will he be wearing shoes in the house? Is a big thing. Which I mean, it's kind of ignorant, but if you've lived in Korea and they're 60, right? You went to school with all Koreans, all your friends are Korean. You know, it's. I understand it. Let's say, and yeah, I think it's. Then I met my current landlord. I could speak Korean. I was polite. Also, I'm giving her money, so like, you know, cash is the, you know, if you're paying, they don't really mind. And I think as long as you're trying your best, I think manners as well are somewhat universal. You know, speaking politely,
Uh,
please and thank you. People
yeah,
can take
the
even if it's a
formal, the
conversational, but
conversational.
you know when someone's being rude. You know, so yeah. But no, I think yeah, as long as you're nice, I think people generally. I mean, there's obviously there's not as everywhere in it, but yeah, they're right.
It's really big how this showing that you know the customs and courtesy is very big. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, you see the relief on their face. They're like, okay, he knows how to act. So
yeah.
I don't have to worry about him because I know, unfortunately, some of my countrymen in the US, in the military, those who
They
are
run
in the
amok. Yeah.
military, yeah, there's a pretty bad reputation amongst American military that, you know, they go over there to party and they
Mm.
fool, whether it be fighting in the club or whatnot. And so that's why you'll see, um, and perhaps, and you could touch on this, why you'll see in some clubs they're like no foreigners. It isn't
Yeah.
necessarily because they're trying to be racist or anything like that. They just don't want any potential problems because
Mm.
people in
And
the past have
right,
fucked it
yeah.
out.
And again, it comes down to conversation, right? If you're causing issues, let's say I went to a club and I did something that staff didn't like, whatever that is, and they'd come up to me, don't do that. And I'm like, I can understand what I did wrong and I can not do it again, right? Then it's cool. But if you can't talk with them and they're not willing, and also that, yeah, it's kind of the stress of it, right? It's not worth it. But the one thing I do say is that only happens or typically happens in high like concentration of foreign areas like Itaewon and Gangnam, the kind of clubbing areas, which I get. But then another thing is, I remember I went clubbing once with my two foreigner friends who they're doing the same thing as me. They're studying full time at Konkuk. One is Indonesian Chinese, and one is Taiwanese, so both East Asian. And for our ID, we gave our foreigner cards, which says your country, your birth date, whatever, everything. And they were both accepted, and I was denied because they were like Asians, East Asians only. So even then, I'm like, that's kind of mad, bro. And we all speak Korean,
Yeah,
and they're speaking to me in Korean, and they're still like, no. So it's definitely discrimination in
speaking
every
to them in
country, right?
Korean,
It's crazy, and
speaking
they're
to
like,
them in
yeah, no
Korean, and they're like,
foreigners,
yeah,
like.
no.
So I guess it means like basically no black or white people. I guess I think it comes down to military, I guess, but still, that was kind of I was just kind of bummed out, bro. I was like, oh, it kind of sucks, but
Yeah. And
yeah.
did they give you the cross with the fingers? Like, no.
It's like,
'Cause-
like, nah, like this.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
trying to be like, but it's like, dude, I'm not gonna, yeah. If it's time to make a stand outside the club at like whatever time, it's like, yeah, maybe just pack it up and go home. But that's the only, I mean, I've had little bits and bobs, but generally people have been all right. And there's definitely, but there's discrimination in most countries. So I think it's, yeah, I don't know. That's a whole nother can of
Say,
worms, isn't it?
yeah, I'd say out of let's say I've gone to like 70, 75, 80 different restaurants or
Mm,
businesses in Korea. I was denied entry into two of them.
mm.
One was a chain restaurant, surprisingly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't like a very popular chain restaurant. It was sort of like mid-level, and it was 1 in the afternoon. So far from closing,
Mm,
and they weren't on lunch break, quote unquote.
mm.
Um, but yeah, she was very not well, she was polite, but like
Yeah.
it was like no entry. I'm like, oh, all right, I'll take my dollars elsewhere. And I went to
Mm,
another mom and pop shop, and they sat me down, and it was no issue. Another one, it was by the university. I forgot
mm.
the name of it, but it was right by the burrito place. There was a burrito place on the second floor,
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know that.
and
Yeah.
not that place. The place is
Mm,
awesome. I love that place.
mm.
Um, It was a restaurant that has like these. I may send it to you on Naver, just
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
or
You can
whatnot.
give me the tea, yeah.
But yeah, but the hostess was like, "Yeah, no, no entry. Sorry." I'm like, "Oh, it's unfortunate.
Mm, yeah.
Let me go somewhere else and spend money."
Yeah, exactly.
Did
I
exactly
mean,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. Based on your guys' observation, do you find that it's a generational thing, or is it just like a general culture thing?
I think it's I think it's more so. I think I was talking to one of my friends. She's from Finland, and we would both like overanalyze our interactions so much.
Yeah,
Being at the
yeah.
lake, we would sit by the lake, Aiden, and just like, but this happened. I wonder what this means. And but no, no, no. I think ultimately, I think it really is kind of hard to tell. It depends on a case by case
Mm,
basis because you don't know the person's individual biases.
yeah,
You
exactly.
don't know if you don't know if they're excluding you because you're black, you're white, or if it's because you're a foreigner from a particular country. I
Mm,
don't know how you feel about this, Aiden, but it seemed like they cared more about what country you came from, and
yeah.
then they care about what country you come from, and then whether or not you're black or white. I'd say because of the fact that I spoke just even basic Korean,
Mm.
a lot of people I didn't have a lot of bad experiences really. They just,
Mm.
they
Yeah, yeah,
flex a
yeah.
lot. Yeah. What do you think, Aiden?
I think a lot of the times people are, I don't want to generalize because I know it's a touchy subject, but I think a lot of it comes down to conversation. Like I said as well, if you put yourself in the shoes of like a 65, 70-year-old Korean guy and a foreigner comes in and starts, you've only ever interacted with Koreans and you don't speak any English, you don't speak any other language, it's kind of like, is it worth the interaction? Is it worth this kind of stress or this kind of fumble that could happen? You know, what if I give them the wrong food, they complain or blah, 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 blah. But the thing you said about countries, I definitely 100% agree with. So funny story, actually. So I live nearest to school now and it's a lot of foreigners, but it's not like international students. It's a lot of like Central Asians. So a lot of Mongolians, a lot of like
Saying
Kazakhstan,
that
these kind of
like
countries.
Nepali.
Yeah. No, no, I don't think, yeah, but yeah, anyway, so I remember I was with so you go to a place to find a place, like in a real estate office, they'll take you around the places, they'll have the keys to get into the places, and then they'll call the landlady, like, yo, this person's interested, come meet them at my store. They'll give you the money, we'll sign what needs to be signed and do whatever. And I get there, and like most people who own houses, she's an old lady, like 60, whatever. She was
Mm.
mad dogging me. She must have been 60, like 5'1" or whatever. This lady's aura was terrifying. She was like prime Mike Tyson staring me down in the middle of this store, you know? And then obviously the people in the real estate office, they're trying to make money, so they're treating me like oh my God, you're so tall and handsome and you speak Korean, you must have a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, it's like polar opposites, right? The atmosphere. And then she tells me, no, she does the document stuff. And then she kind of looks at me and goes, so when did you leave Uzbekistan? And I was like, huh? And I said, oh, in Korean, I was like, well, I never left because I never went to Uzbekistan. I'm from England. And I just saw the kind of like,
Oh,
like the Looney Tune, like the cash eyes, like, oh, you got, Prince Aiden in the store. And then, yeah, cha-ching. And then, yeah, because I think there is a perception with some, I don't say all Koreans, because most young Koreans really don't care a lot about nationality, I think. But, well, at least the people I've met, they've all been really cool. But she was like, oh, he's English, so he's from the West, he's got money, won't be, short on rent, whatever. She's been a great landlady. I mean, like, she brings me snacks and stuff, and like, she's super dope. But
that
yeah,
kindness. Yeah.
yeah, I definitely think there is a hierarchy where if you come from a more, what did you think? Because do you think because you're Black American as opposed to like Africa, you would treat it better? You say that's the thing.
Yeah, I was about to touch on that. Like, because of the fact that I'm African American and whatnot, it's gotten a lot better what I've heard
Mm,
compared to previous years because now with K-pop draws influences from African American culture,
mm,
music
right.
specifically. And America, if you're from America in general, it's looked on rather favorably.
Mm,
If you're Black American that speaks even basic Korean, they're like, okay, you really know how to act. But even for the base, I really didn't have a lot of issues or anything like that or rude interactions other than those two I mentioned before. I've noticed that uh, African American women,
mm,
they have a very much opposite time. They've had to deal
mm,
with people, quote, touching their hair. Actually, like
mm.
I've heard a lot more horror stories from Black women that have visited Korea, unfortunately, and it'll be over like small cultural misunderstandings, like the staring.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I've there even coming over here, I had to like constantly remind myself like there's going to be some staring. Honestly, I didn't encounter that much staring, and I also think that my physicality played a role. I'm not
Mm.
super 6 foot even, you know. I'm not say built or
No,
whatnot,
no, no.
but
I see
like
what you mean. Like if you stand out,
yeah,
right? Like if you're a bigger
yeah,
guy, yeah, and you're foreign, you're gonna draw more heads, I
you're
guess.
gonna be fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna be fine as long as you don't cause any problems. Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I do think that being really comes down to the country you come from. And I've noticed a lot of African. I talked with a Nigerian restaurant in Itaewon before I left, and I'm like, how's your experience been? And he's like, they don't like us.
Mm,
Specifically for Africans, it seems,
yeah.
they don't like us at all, so to speak. And I'm like, well, what was the process for you getting a loan for the restaurant? And he was like, my wife's Korean. That's the only reason why
Yeah.
I was able
Yeah.
to get this loan. I was like, that makes sense.
Mm,
But it, I've noticed with the Africans that are over there, it seems that it is a bit more difficult if they don't people that look like them in the friend group. If they're like by
mhm.
themselves, then and I think that's like regardless of demographic. If you're in a foreign country and you don't have people that look like you or that you can relate to or talk to, it
Mhm.
becomes a lot more difficult. And this kind of goes into the next question. Like, and would you say that there was a honeymoon phase? There was, like, when did it
Yeah.
end?
I mean, I think there are certain people I've met who I think if you're more into Korean culture, there's deeper. But I never really watched. Now I'm watching them to improve my like language ability. And they're good. Now I get them, it's fun, but I was never like a K-pop stan or like K-drama fan. It's more cool, man. I've never been to Asia, right? I've gone around Europe. It's pretty easy to travel to like Italy and Spain when you live in London. Yeah, and it's like even the small things like the doors, there are sliding doors when you push a button. I never. It's like these small things, and the food's cool and like it's glowing lights. It's cool. Then it can get a bit, especially when you've got poor language ability. It's hard to make friends. It can get a bit lonely. I went to language school, so I was kind of always surrounded by people experiencing it at the same time. I think it helped that I didn't go into it thinking, which I think some people do, this is going to solve all my problems. The reason I'm not satisfied and happy with my life is because I live in the States and I'm with people who don't understand me. When I go to Korea, I'll fit in and everyone's going to understand me and I'm going to be this like 6 foot cheekbones, handsome, gentle, whatever. And it's going to be perfect because I've seen this as well because I think Korean, a lot of entertainment is catered towards women. In terms of K-pop, I'd say this. I'm not sure if it's just catered, but a lot of the fans I've seen of K-dramas and thinkers, guys are perfect. Dude, the guys in K-dramas, they're like Prince Charming, and they're super tall and handsome. So, and then they realize
No
that a
bumps,
lot of
no
Korean guys,
blemishes.
no, gorgeous,
Yeah,
man.
like glowing skin, glass skin. I had
Hairline's
never felt
perfect.
so.
Like,
Yeah, like I even remember how like I had never paid so much attention to my facial appearances or whatnot. Had the whole skincare routine,
yeah,
and I'm like, I can't just like it's not like regular university over here in the US where people go to class in their pajamas or whatnot. I'm like, no, I need a
yeah,
whole fit. I need to have my little
yeah,
overcoat.
yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying.
So, yeah, so I think I didn't have this thing of like, oh, this is gonna, I just saw it like, yo, Korea's a country. But still, there's like cool stuff where it's like, oh, the food's like this, and I can go to the corner store whenever I want. It's like open 24/7, and they've got like, these weird chip flavors or whatever. But I didn't, I think because my expectations weren't super high to begin with. But then there are bits where it's like, you have doubt, right? Anything's difficult, you're like, why am I here? Could be in university in London. I would have graduated by now. Sure, I've got, but you don't think of the debt, you just think of the benefits. It's the grass is always greener, man. I mean, I think my advice to someone who is curious about going career is it's great. Like, I'm getting a great education now. I think I'm pretty satisfied with my lifestyle and stuff, but it's not a K drama, man. I'm studying, I'm working, I'm living a normal person's life, but it's great stuff about Korea, but it's a country and it's not going to solve all your problems. If you've got these things where you're not satisfied about yourself or your lifestyle, coming to Korea, it's not going to solve them.
Yeah, and what you were talking about expectations. I specifically, I think I'm actually glad I was so anxious and on guard about having
Mm.
a potentially negative experience. Like I lowered my expectations a lot,
Yeah.
and so that's like I mean by a lot, and that's why after going over there and spending some time, I'm like, yo, this is great. you
Yeah.
know, you know, I think that was really. I'm actually kind of glad I did that or whatnot.
Mm.
But yeah, like you said, it is not a drama out here.
Nah.
And
Yeah, it's a city. It's the capital city. Like,
yeah, it's the
yeah.
capital city of a very technologically advanced nation. And I specifically remember at one point in time, I was like, I'm like, I want to see, okay, this is all the good stuff. This is all the
Yeah.
glitz and glamour. I want to see the bad stuff. Like, I want to go to the bad part of town, which they're really, the bad part of town in
Yeah.
Korea is just like there are streets that don't have like street cleaners come through or whatever or
Yeah.
whatnot. And there's like junk in the road, which is, yeah, it's not that bad.
Mm. Yeah.
But people coming over there to Korea to sort of fix their problems or whatnot to escape. I definitely got that feeling from some
Mm.
of the foreigners and talking with the Koreans about how foreigners will come over to not really to learn, but to basically go on vacation or whatnot. And
Yeah.
I noticed that the people who are like that, that lasts for about a good like month and a half to or
Yeah.
whatnot. It gets old quicker than they expect.
I mean, it's a great holiday destination. My mom came this summer to see me, and she loved it. She went to the language school for a bit. She went for 5 days just because I'm staying here for longer. So she's like, let me learn a little bit. She loved it. The food's interesting. The people are friendly. There's fun stuff to do. But you know, imagine if you zipped your mouth closed, right? So you couldn't speak, and you closed your ears, right? If you were deaf and mute, how fun would life be? Because if you can't speak the language to a certain extent, you can make friends, but it's going to limit that. Food wise, using apps, a lot they have English options, but it's nowhere as good as the English ones, So it's a lot
You may
for
pay
long
more for
term.
the English trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. These kind of things, So it's like it's definitely fun things to do. But if you're going to move here for a long amount of time, it's a big commitment. So I'd say like you got to understand it's not going to be, you're not going to be in your K drama era or whatever.
Yeah, no. If anything, I just like remember I'm like, okay, I got to make sure my facial appearance is caloric deficit,
Mm,
check.
yeah.
Skincare, check.
Yeah.
Deodorant, heavy on the deodorant, and the taking care of yourself. And it's because of the fact that everyone else is really taking the time out of their
Yeah.
way to take care of themselves and talking about the study culture. Oh my goodness, I'm glad I didn't forget about this. When
Yeah.
you mentioned, I want to say you are in one of the study capitals in the world. Like
Yeah.
they do not play about the
Mm.
study culture over there or whatnot. There are even cafes specifically for studying
Oh
so
yeah.
that you can not be distracted at all and pay I think what was the going rate for that one? I think it was like $12 an hour or something like that, which is
That's an
pretty
expensive one.
expensive.
That's a pricey one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty pricey one. But I even remember when I was studying for midterms for just four
Mm.
classes in the library, you know, you could probably speak to how there's a system. You can't just pick a desk and sit down in it. You have to make a reservation.
People were pre-ordering on their phone to get a seat. I was shocked, man. I didn't go uni in England,
Yeah,
so I can't speak on the comparison that directly, but that library is full. If not pre-ordering a library seat during midterms or final, a week or two
you're
before,
screwed.
you're not getting a seat. Yeah,
Yeah.
you may as well study at home, man.
And I put all my books down. I looked on the app to see if there was enough time. So the person who was sitting there previously, they left and they
Mm.
had 16 minutes left or whatever. I'm like, okay, cool, cool. Set my stuff down, got set up, had my whole setup out, laptop, books, everything ready to go. I'm refreshing. I even set a timer. I'm refreshing every
Mm.
it's okay, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 second, refresh, refresh, refresh. And as soon as it became live, I clicked and reserve. This seat has been taken. And
Yeah.
so I had I had to get up, to save face or whatever from someone
Mm.
coming over. Excuse me, this is my seat. I grabbed my stuff and went to another seat. And which you have to do because someone else reserved the
Mm.
seat
Yeah.
before you, and luckily I got another seat. I didn't have to leave the library or anything like that. But every time I would look up at my iPad to take notes or whatever, I would see this person in the seat
Mm.
over there. And what culminated was this letter. I was practicing Korean. I was ranting. I could probably send you a picture of it later on, Eden, but it was me ranting in Korean about the whole reservation system or
Yeah.
whatnot, and my just you could see it in my handwriting. I was not happy,
Yeah.
but
They take it intense, but
the
definitely in uni it's not as bad, I
yeah,
think.
it is very intense over there. I remember picking a gray hair out of my nose while I was studying. It is yeah, it is no
Internal
joke, and
stress. Yeah.
yeah, and coming back over here to I knew I was studying hard because my Korean friends are like, Romeo, you need to relax.
Mm.
Every time they're they're like, Romeo, every time I come to the library, you're in here. You need to relax.
Mm.
But I take that as a compliment or whatever, whatnot.
It's
But
better than the opposite.
coming
Yeah.
back,
yeah.
yeah,
You gotta
coming,
outdo them.
yeah, is definitely the opposite. They're like, oh no, you don't need to study that much. I'm like, okay, you guys just saying that, but at the same
Mm.
time, I'm seeing you here the same amount, if not more
Yeah.
than me. But coming from the Korean university, from Konkuk Daehakyu, and coming back to my home institution, it is night and day, which I'm not
Mm.
gonna lie, I kind of miss the environment over there in Korea because it's easier, in my opinion, it was easier for me to focus because everyone else is
They're
getting
on it.
after
Yeah,
it.
definitely. I think then as well, what I've talked to my Korean friends about, it's nowhere near what high school is. So, I mean, I hope I don't butcher this. So, similar to the Gaokao in China, they take one exam at the end of high school, and that's the make or break. It's like an 8 hour maths, science, whatever, whatever. And so that's kind of the main exam you do in your life. If you get in good university, even if you finish with a mediocre GPA, it says in the top of your thing, you went to this school, like whatever. Kind of good. People don't care about GPAs, from what I've been told from my Korean friends anyway. So I think even that's not intense studying because I like kids, they just study like high school, middle school. It's insane. You know, in England, some people went to tutors, I guess. I never went to a tutor in my life. I think once in high school when I was failing a class, my mom got me a tutor or like a friend of a friend. I would just go home. I would just go home and game or go and play sports or just do anything but study, you know. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, they talked about how starting from middle school and, all the way up to high school, they had no lives, so to speak. It was all
Mm.
studying and preparation for what was it called? The Keist,
Yeah, I
Korea's
actually,
version of it.
yeah, I think I actually don't know. I can look it up for you.
But nonetheless, for people listening, to give you an idea of like how serious this test, it's like China's version of the
Mm,
Gaokao. It is the test that defines your life or whatever or whatnot. Like for the reading portion of the exam, there are no flights in or out of South
mm.
Korea so that there is no noise to potentially distract the students while they're taking this portion of the test. Flights are grounded for, for a portion of
It's
this
crazy.
test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is deadly serious. No one is using no there are no cars on the road the day of the test. And it's so that the students can get to where they need to go. And I think even you could hitch a ride with a police officer if
Yeah, I've
you're
seen that.
running. Yeah, if you're running late. You've seen that.
No, I mean I've seen it on the news article, not in person, but I've
Oh
seen
yeah,
like there'll be
yeah.
like police convoys if you're gonna miss the exam because it's
Right.
everything, man. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it is no joke. I know you kind of touched on this a bit. So your experience with finding housing, it seems like
Mm,
kind of to backtrack a little bit because I've been curious about this myself. It
yeah.
seems that the an apartment over what we call an apartment here in the US is really a house over there, and it
Yeah.
is far more expensive. How would you say it was more expensive over there in Korea versus back home?
So housing in London is ridiculous. Like absolutely ridiculous. So it's way more expensive here. So actually I'm in a good position now where I can support myself in a one room apartment. So I mean, this is a podcast, so I don't want to show you my house anyway, but it's like
Of course.
basically a one room with a cooker and a washing machine and a bathroom. And that's generally what young people are going to live in before you're married, right? Actually, most people still live with their parents because it's like, I move out. So I'd say most people live in high-rise apartments with 3 bedrooms. And I think the average cost, I researched it before the podcast, it was $750,000, I think, in Seoul. In Seoul anyway, sorry. Obviously, it's
Mhm.
cheaper in smaller cities, but there's definitely a housing crisis in Korea, which is contributing one of the many factors to the low birth rate. People can't afford houses, but I think that's a kind of worldwide problem. Same in England, same in America. I've heard in the bigger cities like LA and stuff. So but then actually getting a house, the deposit's crazy. So my deposit was like $5,000, like $4,000, $5,000 for my tiny apartment, just because it's hard to kick someone out. I'm not sure what the thing is in the US, but we've got bailiffs in the UK where you don't pay your rent. They'll give you a certain amount of time depending on the contract. You don't pay, they're kicking you out of that house. Then get a document from from the local government or whatever, and you're getting chucked on the street. In Korea, that's extremely difficult to do, which is why it's so high. So if I stop paying rent, whatever, my landlord's gonna text me, "You'll pay your rent." I just keep ghosting her, ghosting her, ghosting her. To get me out of this house is gonna take such a long time, and she'll miss so much rent and a headache. This is a part-time thing for a lot of people. They want the kind of security. So that's why they want such a high deposit. But then the rents, I mean, it's going up like everything. I think the cost of living crisis is affecting Korea too, but yeah.
Yeah, Austin, I think you're in the equivalent, you're in America's version of Seoul.
Yeah.
And so you could speak on how like ridiculously expensive it is in the whole process of kicking someone out and how like evicting someone from a New York apartment. How does that work?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I feel like the eviction process is, I honestly am speaking kind of out of my ass on this. I have no idea about like this is
Yeah, we
also
never
different
claim
from
to be
state to state.
experts.
yeah, I've been watching this one.
Like I don't know all the statutes and everything, but I
Yeah.
will say I think in the US in general, from what I know, it's that it is fairly easy to evict someone, like
Mm,
especially if like there's like my like evidence and proof and they take it to like, the local court or something, they can get an
mm,
eviction notice and then this person has so many days notice to move out. Yeah, but in terms of
Yeah,
the housing situation in New York, it's just fucking ridiculous. It's just so expensive.
yeah.
Like if like, you can maybe find a good deal for like tiny studio for like 2,000, 2,500, and then but then the market average is like anywhere between $3,000 to $4,000 a month. And
That's
it's
ridiculous.
and one thing that I learned, especially in New York, like if you want laundry like in building, or if you want a
Mm,
laundry machine in unit, that's going to cost more. That's going to jack up the price a lot more, and it's actually pretty common for a lot of people to have no laundry in their building, and then they'll just carry their laundry to the local laundromat down the street or something.
that's
And
crazy.
so roommates are like
yeah,
it's a pretty common thing here, just because people
Mm,
want to be able to afford to live in the city.
yeah. Yeah, actually,
not
now I
just
thought about it, there's not many roommate situations in Korea. Maybe that's the difference. I
Mm.
think 'cause the houses are so small. Damn, New York sounds crazy then. Not going to be moving there
it's
anytime soon. I won't transfer.
well, even then, I've noticed like even with the apartments, in my opinion, the quality of apartments in South Korea are far better than in the US.
Mm,
Sure, our apartments may be, well, not in the case for New York where Austin is, but other parts, our apartments may be bigger, but they're not up to the same quality as your guys' houses and apartments. Like I remember I visited a couple apartments or whatnot. I'm like, yo, this is a luxury apartment, and they're like, nah, man, this is just a regular apartment.
yeah.
And I think this is another way we could pivot into another conversation. This is potentially
Mm.
controversial, but
Ooh,
the
okay.
population, yeah, the population crisis or whatnot. I feel like
Mm,
there's a major
Mm.
misconception from social media on the topic of the population crisis in the West.
mm,
What we are getting, and it was very eye-opening going over there. What we are seeing on social media, what we're being told, the reason why there is a population crisis in South Korea has to do with waves of feminism or whatever, whatnot. But after being over there,
mm.
that's really not the issue. It's like you said, it's housing. And because
Yeah.
you can attest to this, Aiden, there are couples everywhere in South
Oh,
Korea.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone's in a couple. And I think it's just said to grab headlines. I think definitely there's maybe more of a feminist. I'm talking down my ass again, but maybe there's more of a feminist scene than there was in the past. But from the
It's a
girls I know,
very
like my
small
female
percent.
friends, they're not like, oh, I don't want to date because I hate men. Everyone's in a couple. It's not like it's
Right.
it's a financial issue. It's also less kids like everywhere. So they want to put more into their kids. So they want to make sure they've got the best house, they send them to the best tutor, the best school, whatever. So it's just crazy expensive to have a kid. I think Korean raising it's one of the most expensive countries in the world to raise a kid because so much goes towards the education. And yeah, it's more of a financial issue than a feminist. I think that just makes a good headline,
Yeah.
you know, and a good debate topic. But it's like most things in life, it's based off money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree completely because it's such a stark reality from what we have, what we're observing, what we're told from Western media about what's going on in another country versus being here and seeing couples literally everywhere. I'm pretty sure you've seen the couples
Mm.
embracing each other on in the metro, and some
Yeah.
of them look like they're about to get freaking busy in the middle of the freaking train station. I'm like, yo, man. I'm like, yo,
Yeah.
man, y'all got to take that somewhere else. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, ew. Where's the decorum? But,
They, they just
uh,
take it a lot more seriously. Like the matching
right.
outfits, the pictures, the professional photo shoots. I'm like,
The
the
agencies.
days, like the counting the days you like, what, 100 days now? It's like, dude, 1 year anniversary. It's hard to remember enough. Now you got all these days and whatever. It's
Mhm.
intense.
And I've noticed, even with one of my Korean friends I was close with, he would basically have to check in every hour with
Yeah.
his girlfriend to be like, hey, where are you at? Oh,
Mm.
you're here? Send me a picture.
Yeah, that's
Like,
standard. Yeah, my Korean guy
yeah,
friends, you'll get dinner with them, and they'll be like, "Yo, can we take a picture together?" I'm like, "Dude, we're like in the middle of eating." They're like, "No, because my girlfriend, she wants to know where I am, and if I just say I'm with Aiden, like, how is she gonna quantify it?" So every time you go out, with a group of guys getting a beer or some dinner, whatever, it'd be like, "Okay, picture time. We need the evidence and proof. Get ready for court." Like, we're gonna the questions
I,
are gonna start flowing. Like, yeah,
I would get so annoyed sometimes with the pic. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, yo, man, why are we documenting every single second? And my friend told me afterwards, right before I was leaving, he was like, yeah, that was really to document and as proof
yeah.
for
You
my
saved a man's
girlfriend. And
life there, Romeo, man. You're a
it,
lifesaver.
yeah, no, literally. No, literally, like every single time or whatnot. I'm just like
Yeah.
giving the thumbs up or the peace sign in the background.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it seems that like it, and I'm pretty sure you can attest, even being in Rika's running club, that they like to take lots of photos. And it wasn't until I left that I appreciate that
Yeah.
gung ho-ness for documenting and taking pictures. Like, well, you can't see it now with my apartment. I still need to put the photos up, like I said before, but it
Yeah.
looks like I'm in a barren room or whatnot. But there are pictures of my time when I was in Korea that make for really good, nice photos, and it's really nice nonetheless.
Yeah, and in terms of that, like, what in your guys' experience and observations, what was the dating culture like there?
Anything's interesting. So, I mean, also, I moved to Korea pretty young. So I think comparisons is kind of difficult because I left basically after high school. But I don't know. I think, yeah, I see a lot of my guy friends get into relationships and become super early. Like all my Korean guy friends, they go on like 1 or 2 dates, and it's like, oh, she's my girlfriend now. And then when I compare it to my friends back home in London, they kind of have
Bali
your
Bali,
talk, yeah, your talk is yeah, your belly, and it's like my friends
quickly.
have like a talking
Mhm.
stage, and it's like they're kind of exclusive, but they're not like boyfriend and girlfriend because that's too much. And English people are bad with emotions as well. They'll get really drunk one night, and then they'll become official, and they can actually have the nerve, to talk to each other. But yeah, I remember I had a guy, one of my close friends. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going on a date today." I'm like, "Oh, cool, man. Have fun." And they're posting pictures and tagging each other on Instagram. I'm like, on the first date, that's kind of boozy, but
Yeah.
go off, man.
Mhm.
And then he comes back like, "Yeah, well, we're dating now. She's my girlfriend." I'm like, "Wow, man, you move fast."
Mhm.
Yeah.
For my
Yeah.
dating experience, for those who don't know, I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community or whatever, whatnot. And it was very interesting being over because I know that South Korea is not a really great country. It's very conservative,
Mm.
but still, nonetheless, it was not hard finding other guys using apps, of course, and whatnot. I've noticed it's kind of the same thing where things move pretty quickly.
Mm.
Like, I'm like, yo, man, we're just talking right now, and posting pictures on Instagram or
Mm.
whatever, or whatnot, and moving very, very, very quickly, and just like, yo, I'm like, slow down. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So generally, so do people just not have that many like life partners like throughout their
No,
I
life?
mean,
people
they
date.
do.
Yeah.
It seems that they are more. I'd say this. I've know, in my opinion, Koreans are more intentional with their dating because, in my opinion, I think they really, yes, they're dating quickly or whatnot, but they still are dating to marry, with that
Mm,
being the end goal. Of course, it depends on how old they are, but they take
yeah.
their dating more seriously and not as casually, in my opinion.
I think also
Relatively young.
a lot of it's kind of to pass. I think for university students, like younger people, it's kind of like you want a boyfriend in uni. That's like an experience you want to have, and you want to do the kind of up. You want to go on a date. You want to get the picture. You want to kind of tick off a box of having a relationship. And also, back to the conservative thing, it's like kind of having like being casual with your relationships is less it happens, but I think for most people it's less common. So it's better to be in an official relationship. If you want to be, if you're just having like a kind of friends with benefits guy friend, you might get some judgment. But if it's your boyfriend for a month and then you break up, it's completely, oh, that's above board because you signed the document of being a boyfriend and girlfriend. So I think that kind of comes into it as well.
It's more
Gotcha.
official. Yeah.
Official, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's more respected because it's like, oh wow, you two are in a committed relationship and responsibility behind it. But I'd say my biggest like mess up or whatnot was that there would be times in which it would take me a ridiculous amount of time to respond to text messages, and I could see my Korean friends getting angry as
Yeah.
hell. Like, and I'm like, oopsie, But it's not because they can be interpreted as like you don't think I'm important enough to respond that
Mm,
quickly when it's really I'm in the middle of class right now. I am super busy because I
mm.
have to go on a wild goose chase from the engineering building to the administrative office, back to the mailroom, back to the administrative office or whatever, whatnot. But still, I noticed that is if you get a text, you better respond ASAP.
Yeah, I would contest to that. I'd say it's important. But I think when it comes down to it, dating is, I mean, there's only so much, it's going for a coffee or going for a dinner or whatever. I think to a certain extent, there are similarities and differences, but I'd say overall it's not different. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I was
Gotcha.
very surprised that like even though Korea is a conservative country, it is an international tourist spot and hub.
Mm,
So there were quite a bit of gay people, and meeting them wasn't too hard, so to speak. It was yeah, I had a fun time. It was nice. It was very interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of conservatism, so I actually grew up in Hawaii, and
mm,
there's like a lot of East Asian influence. And like growing up, I noticed that significantly Koreans are a lot more like Christian, like
yeah.
they're Christian compared to other East Asian
Oh
ethnicities.
yeah,
And so I wanted to ask you about like is like Christianity a pretty big influence like while you were in?
Yeah, I used to I used to go to church here for a bit. I just went through a phase because I wasn't really religious growing up. So I was like, let me just go to church. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why not? And yeah, massive church communities. Like really, there's yeah. Because I mean, from my basic understanding, there's not big Christian communities in China or in Japan. So I think Korea's kind of stands out. But I'm not sure the history behind it or why. But I can definitely attest to there's a lot of Christians, and then also there's a lot of cults as well. I think that's quite. There's
yeah.
on the Reddit forums about living in Korea, like people. So like one time, because I never went to a church, so I was like, do I go about it? So I knew there was like a coffee shop near my campus where they were like a church. So I went there and they were really friendly and nice. And they're like, oh, Aiden, let's go to
Did
this
they
like,
have Switzerland?
yeah, they were dressed to impress. So I met them and we went to it was like a church but underground. And they kind of sat, they were all women as well because there were some guys, but they left. So I was like, I didn't feel like threatened or whatever. Now I think about it, they sat down, me in the middle. So there were two of them each side of me and it was a packed like underground church. And I was like, oh, cool, it's church. I went a bit as a kid. My dad's from a Catholic background, like Irish Catholic, So I went a couple of times, but nothing. He was not into it. I'm not really into it. Not that I've got nothing against it, but I was not a big part of my life. And then like, there's a nice preacher on, and she's really nice. And then they swap preachers. This different guy comes on, and he's yelling. Another time I was in language school, so I didn't know what he was yelling about. But you can tell, you can pick up vibes, And he was angry. And everybody starts speaking in kind of hymns. No, was it like what's the thing like when you kind of mumble? You're kind of speaking to yourself, like humana, humana,
Speaking
like
in
this
tongues.
songs, yeah. And I'm like looking around, like, yo, am I in like a movie or something? And everyone's speaking in tongues. I was like, yeah, I get the hairs in the back of your neck and stuff
Mhm.
like this. I was like, dude, I'm out. And I bounced. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to toilet. I'll be back in a sec. I was like, where did I? I mean, there's loads of normal chats as well, but there's scams and cults and stuff a lot. And they'll target foreigners on the street. They'll ask you to come get lunch with them and stuff
They'll
like
wait
that.
outside the subway to hand you pamphlets.
Yeah, all that kind of and
Mm.
like wet tissues and stuff. It's quite good actually. You don't have to buy wet tissues if you got one near your subway station. You just get all these like Kleenex and stuff.
I just even remember like I'm glad I picked up on that. I heard a little bit about scams and the cults or whatever, whatnot, especially with them going to target foreigners or whatnot. Even I
Mm.
took a little day trip to Suwon, to a friend of mine, and there were like a bunch of different groups of guys that you like dressed to impress in really nice suits and that spoke damn near perfect English. I'm like, nope.
Yeah, go
Uh,
for it, man. Yeah,
oh my goodness. I threw on the thickest American country accent. I was like, yeah, how you doing? Great. Nice to meet you. Like unintelligible
yeah.
English or whatnot. Oh my goodness gracious. Like it was really interesting. And I, that seems to be like a common story amongst foreigners that stay
Mm.
long term in Korea, how they have some experience with a cult. Luckily, I didn't. The closest experience I had was them trying to, talk with me or whatever, whatnot, or
Mm.
being handed the pamphlet. But then again, I was only there for like barely 4 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see. We really
Kind of
talked
along the
about.
lines, actually, sorry, along the lines of that, like, did you guys notice much like homelessness or like wealth in it, like clear signs of like wealth
Ooh,
inequality in the society?
Mm.
yeah, and you could touch on this first.
So, I mean, I would like to hear your guys' perspective, just because I know in America, I've heard, especially in big cities like New York, Austin, there's a big problem. But in London, yeah, and I think what it comes down to is also drugs. That's a whole. It's like getting deep now, but
Mm.
there's are there drugs in Korea? Probably, yeah. I'm not gonna say it's not, but I've never seen any drugs in the whole time I've been here. I've not seen anything. I've not smelled anything. In contrast to London, where you'll smell people smoking weed in the street every single day. It's illegal, but I think there's just so much of it at this point. People don't really care. And I think that leads into the homelessness as well. People with like serious mental health issues brought upon excessive drug use. You'll get areas in Seoul Station, like super central Seoul. There is famously there's some homelessness there, but in my area, I've never seen a homeless person, which is so different to London. In London, not every street, but if you go for a walk for 10 minutes, you'll see a homeless person in London. Or yeah, and they just don't have that in Seoul. Then there's definitely, of course, wealth inequality, but I think it shows itself in a different way, probably.
Mm.
I noticed that the times in which I would see, it seems that the homeless people in Seoul were on like the schedule. What I mean by that was that actually, yeah, they were on during regular business hours or whatnot, when the most people are using the subway,
Mm,
they would go out and they would pick up cardboard so that they could perhaps earn a couple cents or a couple
mm,
dollars or whatever or whatnot. But as soon as it approached like 10:30 at night, that's when you would
mm,
see homeless people shack up in the subways or whatnot.
mm,
And none of them were combative or anything like
mm,
that or belligerent. I think it's just that they unfortunately had nowhere else to go. And when I first got to Korea, I kind of got into hiking because it
mm,
was just far easier to go to a mountain or whatnot by taking a 30 or 20-minute ride via subway and taking a hike or whatnot. And I remember one of the mountains I climbed or whatnot, there was like this little village with tents or whatnot, and it was homeless
mm,
people's tent place or whatever or whatnot. And I was like, huh, that's pretty interesting. But it seemed I don't know what programs they have in Korea for the homeless population, but it definitely seems like homelessness in South Korea is not as common compared to here in the US, where here in the States, you'll see a couple of homeless people. It really depends on where you're at and I guess the time. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Austin, you seen
Mm.
more homeless people because
Yeah, I was gonna say it. I feel like
for
it's
sure.
a scale problem where like the biggest cities in America like have it the worst. I think namely California is probably the worst. And I think
Mm.
a big part of it is probably the weather, the politics there. Like, there's just not as much of a pressure. And like over there, you'll literally see just like tents and like camps, like literally everywhere, just
Mm.
like on the streets and in the cities. And there's even like some streets where they're just known for like all tents and everything, and you just kind of stay away from that area. But here in New York, especially, it's not as it's still everywhere, but it's not like as bad as like the West Coast cities. Like you'll have people like sleeping in the subways, or like they'll like or begging for change on the subway or something, and just like randomly walking around like screaming. And I do think that it is, yeah, mental health and also like drug use is a big problem.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there are certain neighborhoods where like literally you walking down the sidewalk and people are like fucking lighting up like a crack pipe or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, biggest thing is it's linked to drugs, basically. But then, like you were saying, Roma, as well, you see a lot of people collecting cardboard in the streets. So you'll get these people who, I'm not kidding, they look about 80 years old, dragging
Yeah,
these
that
metal like carts with and picking up, yeah, cardboard boxes outside restaurants and stuff to sell. And I actually look, I mean, actually, my source is Reddit, so please take this with a grain of salt because I was curious about this. But the reason they're so old is basically traditionally in Korean culture, your eldest son would look after the parents after they stopped work. So they'd come live with him and he'd pay them for their food and whatever, and they would live together. But then to a certain point, like now, for example, that's quite an uncommon way to live. Generally, you just live with your wife and kids. So that stopped. So then now when they got to a certain age, they didn't have the social security to be looked after. And then the government stepped in to offer social security for the elderly population. But there was a really unlucky kind of middle ground for people who were past too late to get looked after by their children, and too early, and then too late to get looked after, too early to get looked after by the government. And those people are kind of left to just have to work their entire life. So now they're doing these, and it's like it really breaks your heart, like seeing them in the street, like 80 years old, like pulling these carts with like cardboard and stuff on them. But yeah, I think that's probably the best example of wealth inequality in South Korea.
yeah, and it would always break my heart to see that. And I noticed there would be these areas around markets where, they would have these massive carts of the amount of cardboard that they would, scrounge up or whatever, whatnot. And you think that that would go towards recycling. And like, it, 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 these areas in which they would take it to or whatnot, it was kind of like a regular garbage dump, but it didn't look like it was being recycled from what I saw. It looked like it was just being mashed up and thrown in with the rest of the other garbage,
Mm.
which I found to be interesting. But yeah, it's really sad because that's just the way the culture is. It seems that, the eldest son or daughter, the child taking care of the parent is quite common once they get to a certain age and a certain point in life. And even with them, with the homeless people that I saw, I kept on wondering, I'm like, I wonder if there are like homeless shelters for them or whatnot. And even if there were, I think this is a homeless thing with homeless people, regardless of where you're at. They may suffer from mental health illness or whatnot, or it could just be that they just don't want to go to a shelter, perhaps. But it's a pretty complicated thing. But I noticed that really caught my attention because I'm like, we are in a very rich nation, a very advanced nation, and you'll see an elderly person dragging a cart, picking up cardboard or whatnot. But that's the only thing that I noticed when it came to the homeless population. For the bigger thing with wealth inequality, if you want to get into that, because like I'm pretty sure you've seen like the just varying amounts of wealth in Seoul, like people with their
Yeah,
supercars and Rolls Royces just casually just driving around or whatnot. There's a lot. You could definitely see the money
yeah,
that is there in Seoul, uh, versus, normal lower middle class living or whatnot.
mm, yeah. I think it's also there's a big culture of buying brands and stuff like this, even for people who aren't in that kind of high echelon class wise. People love brands in South Korea. They love, yeah, they just love it in terms of cars instead of clothing. It's a very consumer based culture, I think, especially for the younger. I mean, it's fair enough, right? You want to show off that you've
Rolex,
financially
Louis
made the,
Vuitton,
yeah, oh, all of
Gucci.
that. Yeah.
What was it called? Big Monster, Gentle Monster, or something like that.
Oh, I think Jen, I'm
Um,
not, I'm the opposite of that. So I'm completely
yeah,
out of the league. I
I'm
just
like,
terribly.
I remember I went into the Hyundai Peco Gym or the Hyundai department
Mm,
store, and I'm thinking to myself, it's gonna be, oh, like a regular department store, but no,
mm,
luxury brands
yeah.
out the left and right. And here I am, like, granted, the only fancy thing I have on is my overcoat, my winter overcoat, but I have my book bag on, just looking like a tourist, like, or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be here right now. Let me go on to a different floor.
Yeah. And it's,
But,
yeah.
it seems that there is, I've noticed that I'd say one of the biggest things I kept on saying a lot to my Korean friends before I was leaving was that I'm noticing how big reputation is.
Mm,
And that also ties in with branding as well.
mm,
Like you said before, people want to show off that they've made it. I think that's inflamed even more when you're in an area where there's a high concentration of wealth.
mm,
And even talking with my friends, the concern for how, the housing, getting affordable housing once they do finish up with their studies, and the desire to want to start a family really takes its its toll, so to speak.
mm,
I guess it depends on, how traditional their parents are or whatever or whatnot. But still, nonetheless, that need to want to have all these brands. And I honestly think K dramas are not helping with that, especially with the amount of sponsorships that are, like in them. Like, I don't really watch K dramas like that, but even the poor protagonist has a
yeah.
Rolex or Gucci shades, Chanel
Mm,
shades. I'm like, okay, all right.
yeah. But I get it. I mean, it's like, I think this with a lot of countries which developed somewhat recently. It's like, people forget Korea was like ravaged by war. It was it was very hard to live here for like in the recent history. So I think parents or grandparents worrying about how much, your husband, typically it's more about guys, about how much you're making. Like, can you look after their daughter or whatever? Yeah, it may not be whatever. From our country's like culture sense, it may seem a bit weird or a bit wrong or a bit judgmental, but from what they've experienced in their life, it could be like, I can see it. I think it's
Yeah,
completely how it works. Yeah.
it seems like it's just based off of practicality,
Yeah.
just being objective as possible. My tutor even really hit home on this. He's like, well, the reason why, like, why would you want to bring a child into the world if you
Yeah.
can't provide the best for them? At the
Mhm.
same time, there has to be a median. There is no such thing as the perfect child or perfect
Yeah.
circumstances. But I get it. I understand it. Why there is such a need. Are you able to, and perhaps you could correct me on this, Aiden, like,
Mm,
have to have a house, car,
mm,
perhaps, maybe not,
mm,
because, you're in a metropolitan area and public transportation is great.
yeah.
Perhaps even business, but being able to financially provide is very, very, very important. And
Yeah.
until they could get the cost of housing down, people are not going to get people may get married, but they're definitely not going to have kids until they can lower the cost of housing, from what my
Definitely.
Korean friends have told me.
And the thing that I think one of the reasons people aren't striving for that is because if you're not having kids, you don't really need to get married, right? It's like, and it's like, well, if I'm not going to get married and have kids, then I'm just going to live my life for me. I'm going to spend this money
Right.
on like, taking up a hobby, learning jujitsu or like learning painting or doing all these things. So I think when you see a lot of people now in their like 30s who like maybe in the past would have gotten married, they're kind of living for themselves, living by them. It's like, I kind of get it though, right? Like if you're not getting married, then you're going to keep saving for something you can work as hard as you want. You still can't buy a house, right? So just, yeah, I think I don't say entirely because there are factors with everything, right? But I think the main one is just the finances of getting married now and having a kid is just, yeah, close to not
Too
impossible, but very difficult.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really expensive. I'm trying to think. We really hit home on what I think of any more. So I guess Austin, do you want to start to wrap
Yeah.
up, or do you have any more questions?
Oh yeah, I did. So speaking on
Yeah,
like
yeah.
image and reputation,
Yeah.
I mean I could go on forever, but yeah, I think we should wrap up
Hey, we
soon.
got time. I got all
But
day.
speaking on image reputation, I've heard
Mm,
like plastic surgery is a big thing there, right?
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah, really big. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think it's funny. I think when it comes to looks, especially in recent years, England and America are super touchy. You got stuff like the body positive movement, and like it or hate it, it's made a big impact in America in the way people interact with each other. That some things that you could have said in the past won't be as taken as well, perceived as well. Does not have that. So I've got actually some great
No.
examples to use it.
Mm,
So people will bring up your appearance all the time here. Like, not in a, well, you could say rude. I guess rude's objective, right? But just straight up. So if if you're overweight and you're going to Korea, people are not gonna shy away from calling you fat. So I
mm,
remember going to school and the teacher was talking about. I'm not gonna say which teacher. I'm gonna keep it whatever. Teacher was talking
yeah.
about her husband, and she said, my husband's, 100 kilograms, which is like 220 pounds for the Americans. I think 225. I'm not sure, maybe 210. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Two,
a little over
220.
200
Yeah,
pounds.
Yeah, a little bit over 200 pounds. So a big fella. And she's like, yeah, but he's really good at cooking. So I like dating a fat guy because he cooks me great food after school, after I get back from like working at a school. So she goes around the class and talks to the skinny and overweight people. Oh, are you good at cooking? So she came to me. I'm not particularly overweight. And I said, no, I don't really cook that much. And then she talked to a fat guy who could cook. And she's like, see, I told you, fat people are good at cooking. And then also we were getting shirts for like university merchandise. So she was like, everyone, tell me your size directly in front of everyone. So she'd come around with a clipboard, kid by kid, what's your size for your shirt? And obviously in the US, I think people would be a bit more nonchalant. If you're maybe overweight, you may be embarrassed to say a certain size in front of the whole class. But she was like, so I remember there was an overweight girl, and she was like, "How big's your size?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't really know." She's like, "I'll give it a 2X." Like, but not in a way of like trying to out her. She was like, "Yeah, you're clearly overweight." It's like they don't, or like, "Oh, you've got kind of a big face, or you've got this." And it's like people are quite, I think harsh. I don't know.
Mhm.
For me,
What
it's
about
harsh.
on
Like
the other side of the conversation? Like, are people insecure about that kind of stuff, or are they like, yeah,
really insecure.
oh,
And that's why I think even with guys, so like I think English guys especially have generally a macho thing of like you want to look after yourself, but you don't. If you go too far, then you're kind of too effeminate, right? So
Yeah,
English guys,
it's seen as feminine. It's no
if
different. I think it's starting to
yeah,
change in the US a little bit, but yeah, it's still kind of the same a little bit. But what were you saying?
so I'd say like typically average most guys in UK wouldn't wear makeup, and if you did wear makeup, people would assume you're gay. To put it objectively,
Right.
right?
mhm.
Even skincare. When I do skincare in England, some guys like, there's a lot of moisturizer, bro. Or you got like three different bottles for your face. Like, I'm like, yeah, bro.
It's being in Korea. It's
I'm,
no joke. Like
it's like
it's
everyone
just the
does
way it
this.
is.
And then, I'll
Mhm.
go into the boys' toilets at a bar or whatever, and people with the foundation and stuff, and they're using it, and I'm like, I'm not shocked anymore. I'm like, yeah, it's just guy stuff. And in the Olive Young is the biggest brand of like there's cosmetic stuff. So it's got like face masks and shampoo and whatever, everything. And in the guy section, there's a lot of makeup. So I think there's the beauty stand for guys as well to do plastic surgery, like nose jobs, eye with double eyelid surgery. That's really common. I think not most people, but I'd say, yeah, people I'd say more insecure about their appearance in Korea than I would say in my home country, I would assume. The plastic surgery is
And
different. England, it's more bodies, I would say. Most girls would be like BBLs or like breast implants, I guess. Korea's face. So it's like, oh, I want to change my nose, or they don't want to exaggerate. They want a natural kind of plastic surgery look, I guess. I'm not an expert, like I said. I'm not a surgeon or whatever.
I definitely noticed. I was quite surprised too, like how the women, even in the library, you just see them casually just reapplying their makeup. And I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, you look absolutely gorgeous, but that's you look stunning. But this is a bit much, you know. And even that, I remember like when I started, I actually like started to get into skincare while I was over there. I'm like, I gotta step it up because everyone else is doing the same thing, like hyaluronic acid, niacinamide, buffet from buffet serum from freaking the Ordinary brand or whatnot, thermal water, moisturizer for the face,
Mm.
SPF 50, whole 9 yards or whatever or whatnot. And I remember how my friends would tell me because I can grow a beard with my mustache. They're like, "Oh, you should grow it out. It looks cool." I'm like, y'all are capping because, and coincidentally, yeah, coincidentally as well. Every time when I would receive a compliment or whatever or whatnot, I was clean shaven. I was clean
Mm.
shaven,
Yeah.
whole 9 yards with skincare, skin glistening and glowing. In fact, one of my fondest memories was I was at the bus stop on a nice Sunday afternoon, minding my business, and two Korean grandmas tapped me on the shoulder. And they're like "Yapone," which apparently
Oh,
I told that to
pretty.
my tutor. Yeah, and they were like, I told my tutor that. He was like, "Where did you hear that from?" I was like, "There were two Korean grandmas that told me that." They're like, "Okay, that means like good boy or it's pretty."
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I was like, "Yo, man, I don't care if I don't meet the beauty standard here. I know I'm not ugly because
You got the highest form of
Uh,
compliment right there.
that was the highest compliment I had received in my time over there. But yeah, it definitely your looks. I remember I had lost like 10 pounds or whatever. I don't know how that is in
mm.
kilograms or whatever.
Like five kilograms, if I'm not mistaken. I could be
Yeah,
wrong. We can fact check it.
and yeah, I should know that off the top of my head since I'm majoring in engineering. Nonetheless, I caloric deficit,
Mm.
jujitsu, running club, and I was in like really good shape or whatever or whatnot. And as soon as I got back here, I gained all that weight, like 10 pounds back, like it was nothing. Appearance is really, really big. And even how you have to have a picture of yourself on your job application. And it isn't
That's
uncommon for
crazy.
people, yeah, they get their portrait done and they have a whole bunch of face touch-ups and Photoshop done to seem as physically appealing as possible to their employer because pretty privilege is a thing.
Mm.
And one thing's for sure, like you said before, people do not care. If you are ugly,
Mm.
they may not necessarily tell you, but they're not going to like give you much praise, so to speak.
I think they'd tell you, man. I think there's some bits of like, you'd be like, oh, Aiden, you look really tired today, or your skin's really puffy, or stuff like this. And I'd be like, thanks, man. Like, I barely, it'd be like some guy I've met like once in class, like, oh, you've got a pimple, right? It's like, yeah, man, thanks. Like,
Yeah.
good morning to you too, brother. Like, yeah.
Like even taking the micro razor, like I noticed for even me and my roommate, even though we were both Americans, we would still take an obscene amount of time in the bathroom for our
Mm.
skincare routines or whatnot. Like I remember even after shaving, because I get ingrown hairs or whatnot. It's a genetic thing with black people. For our audience that's listening, if you didn't know, I'm black. Oh, and we're more susceptible to ingrown hairs. And so I would have to concoct this like a chemist in my bathroom, mixing certain percentages and ratios of different hyaluronic acid and serums or whatnot, and taking the micro needle and
Oh, is that how you do it? You
just
need a micro needle? Because I shave. I have
or
to
not
shave like
micro
every
needle,
day.
micro shaving rather, not micro needling,
Oh,
micro shaving or whatnot with the small razor to make sure
I
it
need
is
that.
it has worked wonders. But the thing is that in order to prevent the razor bumps, it seemed like for me, which is weird, is that I had to shave every single day and I had to use that little mini razor every single day. And it was, oh my God. And lo and behold, every day, every time I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wear something casual and I'm
Mm,
just going to go to class in something very casual, whatnot. I looked freaking homeless.
yeah,
Hey, compared to everyone else, I looked like I just threw like a crazy person in the middle of the street.
yeah. I think I've gotten so much more vain living here. Like thinking about my appearances, I just never did that. I'm not sure if it's because I'm getting older and that's normal, or because I live in Korea. But in like high school, I would just wear whatever I wanted. I never even thought about what I was wearing or how I did my hair. It's definitely changed up now living here. Skincare especially, I never care about my skin. Now every day SPF 50 before I leave the house, like crazy. I mean, yeah, I'm white. I'm really white. I'm like super British white, so I need as much like skin protection as possible, right? But yeah.
Think it's also, yeah, I think, it comes with age, of course, but it's also the environment that you're in really
Mm.
plays a factor. I'm like, I'm getting compliments every single time I'm clean shaven or whatever or whatnot. Let's keep this going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beards are not a big thing here in terms of. I'd say there are people maybe who'll be okay with it, but I'm saying typically beards are not that popular. I'd say in Korea.
Mm. Gotcha.
Yeah, if my professor is who clearly has a
Mm.
beard pattern or whatnot is clean shaven every day, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, this is the standard.
Yeah. Is the I guess beauty standard part of it at least? Is it still like pale? You want to be skinny, that kind of thing? Because certainly in the West, it's
Mm.
like in terms of like body aesthetics, it's like, oh, you want like a six pack, you want to have some muscle,
Mm.
Yeah,
and
for
you want to
guys,
look
it
like
seems to
fit, and
be
like you want to look like you work out.
I think
yeah, six
Whereas,
pack
people want to
or
work out.
whatnot.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the time, which I think is funny, a lot of people think. I think people would think too much about K-pop as like that's the beauty standard for guys. But what you find is most mid-20s women, 30s women don't find those guys attractive. I think they're like attractive in a sense, but in terms of like dating, or whatever, they wouldn't find a guy. It's kind of like the One Direction's the example I use from England, right? If people said, "Oh, all English guys are like One Direction," it's like no, they're crafted to be attractive to teenage and early 20s-year-old women, you know. So I'd say like most guys want to be kind of jacked and big. I think the gym and being healthy, like the young Koreans in Seoul, is super popular. Everyone goes to the gym and do like
Mm,
body profile and get low body fat and eat healthy. It's
Difference.
pretty big and popular.
mm,
Especially with the Instagram stories of them like documenting their progress or whatnot. I even
Mm.
noticed that one of my Korean friends, he lost quite a bit of weight in quite some time. I'm like, you've lost weight, which is a compliment, which
Mm.
is a good compliment in Korea or whatnot. But it was more so out of concern. I'm like, yo, man, you, please tell me you're not dehydrating yourself right now. But no, it goes to show that that's just like how it is. One thing I think we could really, and it kind of goes back to the whole financial thing or whatnot, but I've noticed that amongst Koreans, there isn't much optimism. Like
Yeah.
coming from as a foreigner, as a guest over there, I have a great amount of privilege in that if I wanted to stay there, I could with the right visa, of course. But I feel like for us as Westerners going over there, we have more of this mentality that the world is your oyster. The world is
Yeah.
as you make it out to be.
mm,
You could do whatever you want. Granted, you put in the right amount of work into it or whatnot. And it seems that that idea is not that common over there, or like I think it's called agency, whatnot, that you could do whatever you want. It doesn't really seem like that way of thinking is quite common. Would you agree with that, Aiden?
I would definitely agree. I think, yeah, I thought about this before the recording the podcast as well. I think the problem is, I think, yeah, again, I'm super privileged. I chose to come here, right? It's like, oh, I want to go and achieve all these great things. And of course, we've talked a lot about, well, not that much. We briefly spoke upon the discrimination you can face as a foreigner, but it's kind of like a yin and yang, right? I've gotten loads of opportunities and been treated special because I'm a foreigner. So I can't complain about the discrimination only because I've got some benefits. It's like a give and take situation to a certain extent. But I think the problem is when you're working that hard, you need a reason to study 10 hours a day. Right? If someone tells you, like, for example, medical school in the US, it's like one of the hardest majors to study, right? Going through medical school. But you get to be a doctor. You get to make pretty good money, right? So it's a means to an end. You say it's like an investment, right? You invest a lot, but you get a very well paid job and a very respected career. I've talked to Koreans who study insane amounts and they go into a pretty high ranked school and they're just going to get a normal office job and still struggle to buy a house. So it's like, dude, why did I study? Why did I have no fun in my high school years? I could have been, learning all these cool things, and I still end up these restrictions because it's a small country with, to an extent, limited opportunities. So it's like maybe if I was studying 10 hours a day, but I get to become, Elon Musk, or I get to become super successful, do my passionate job. But if I did all that work and study for these exams, just do an office job, and what was the point in everything? I think that's what it comes down to, that people are like getting kind of lost.
And you really touched on, like when you said that Korea is a very small country, I kind of had this epiphany when I was over there because Austin, you can back me up on this. The rest of the world knows our politics is freaking crazy.
Oh
Like
yeah.
we we had our president, our former president, assassination attempt, and there was even a
Mm.
second one recently.
Oh
It's
yeah. I think I barely.
it's
Yeah.
insane. And I
Yeah.
remember
Did
when
you
I
did you watch
first
the debate?
oh my goodness, yeah, I watched the debate, and I the former president, that's running, Donald Trump, he said that Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio. It came out that like after post interview or whatever or whatnot, that his vice president basically like started that rumor. He even like admitted that like, sometimes we make sometimes we make things up. But we're doing this so that we could draw attention to the problems that are going. And the report's like, so, Mr. JD Vance, you made this up. We're highlighting problems that are going on in America because it's our politics is a reality TV show.
Mm.
There have been, especially over the past 4 to 6 years, it's been like, what the hell is going on right now? It is a circus. But I, so with that said, that talking about politics, I wouldn't say it's a super common thing, so to speak, or whatever, whatnot, because you
Mm.
don't know how the other person feels or whatnot. But I'd say we are definitely more open to political discourse amongst each other. Whereas I noticed in Korea that is a no,
Yeah.
because I remember I think it was the first or second week, my friend, he was introducing me to a friend of his, and I'm trying to think of ways to make conversation or whatnot, and I asked her a question about something related to politics, and he's like, "No, no, no, no politics."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, I see. And he explained to me that really people are afraid that other people will view them negatively if they have a different opinion. And
Mm.
what you said, I kept on thinking to myself, I'm like, why would they care so much? But it wasn't until I'd say about maybe 3 weeks or so before I left that I come to the realization that this is a very small country
Yeah.
and the opportunities are not as they're not as plentiful.
Mm.
So you really want to be careful with what you say because it is once you get canceled in Korea, you're pretty much done.
Mm.
And regardless if you're a foreigner or, a Korean that is in Korea, if you get canceled, your career is pretty much finished. So it makes sense why they want to be quote unquote careful with what they say. Because in the US, let's say if I don't know, you upset your boss, whatever, whatnot, in one state, you could literally move to the opposite, another town, another city, another state, or even across the country to start anew. Like it's no issue or whatnot. It's relatively easy, but that's not the case with Korea, it seems. Would you agree with that?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't have as much experience in the workforce and stuff like that, but I think definitely I think people keep their private life very separate to their work life. It's almost like a persona. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in most places, but I think that's the thing because I remember I was thinking about what question we talk about today, and I was like, well, I hope they didn't ask me about my take on any political stances of the Korean, because I don't
Yeah,
know
no.
anything. I've had zero discussions about politics the whole time I've been here. Which actually, now you mention it, is true because in England you talk about it, maybe not for your first time or like on a first date or something, but with your friends you discuss politics. Where I'm sure it's the same in the States. But
Mhm.
here, I've literally never talked anything. I don't know any of the words to talk about politics because it's just never come up in conversation with anyone.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you watch the news there at all?
Not particularly. I don't have a TV,
Oh, okay.
so I don't typically watch it. But yeah, I think I kind of
It
live my
seems
own bubble
that,
actually.
and like even with the news over there, Korean politics is actually pretty interesting. It seems that there's a lot of cases of corruption, allegations, or
Mm,
whatnot. I remember uh, Senkyo is their version. I don't want to say it's CNN, but it's like center left. And
mm,
what I found amazing was that I was reading one of their articles in English, of course, and they basically gave a rundown of American politics and how the Donald Trump really is running on a campaign lie, the quote unquote the big lie. And I was absolutely amazed at how this article really just summed up American politics in a couple
mm.
paragraphs. Like they have a better understanding of our country and our politics and the nonsense that's going on than in my opinion, than the portion of Americans here. Because there's just so much. Whereas I've noticed in Korea, you are not going to, no one is going to talk about something that they don't know, that they have
Mm.
no knowledge on. It is very much professional. Like if someone is going to give their opinion on something, they are going to do it as respectfully as possible with the right disclaimers. Like, hey, I'm not an expert in this. And even then, that's rare
Yeah.
because, that's the academically honest thing to do. Whereas, in my opinion, here in the US, that's not all that common so much. And that creates a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and overall confusion. And it adds to the chaos.
Mm.
Ugh. But yeah, we weren't going to ask you anything specifically political.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 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 no. Because like I don't even know anything that much about Korean politics or whatnot. I've read one or two articles maybe, but even then,
Mhm.
it, yeah, that was very interesting to me, and I'm glad I came to that realization that like you have to put yourself in their shoes of where they live. This is a really relatively small
Yeah.
country, and like you said before, people are sacrificing their formative years from 16 all the way up to 24 of not really having fun just so that they could get an office job or a job in general so that they could live comfortably or above comfortably or whatnot.
Mm.
It is there are bigger things to worry about of getting towards that goal so that they
Mm.
could be set for life potentially. But there's only a limited amount of slots available. So it's super competitive.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, should we wrap up?
I'm trying to think if there are any more. I guess we could.
We could
We're.
keep going.
I mean, how much more time do you have, Aiden?
Oh, I'm not rushed. It's like 11:36 now. My
Oh yeah,
class
that's
is late
early for
tomorrow.
you.
Yeah, I got a class at 10:30, so I'm not super. I don't have to be up like crazy early.
Oh, this is
If
a
there's
good
anything you
information.
want
How
to
did
get, yeah,
you? Yeah, how did you stay sane over there? Like, what did you do
stay sane.
to make sure your mental health didn't
Same.
go
Okay.
into the gutter? Because, like we talked before we started recording, I feel like even if you're a foreigner or in you're Korean and whatnot, it is very easy to be lonely over there in Seoul.
Yeah, there have been crash outs. I can't lie. There have been, was it troughs and valleys? It's been difficult at some points, but think I think the biggest thing, like recommendations I would give to maybe someone who wants to stay here for a longish time. In terms of making friends, the main thing is the language. Even if your friend speaks Korean fluently, if they want to introduce you to anyone, if they want to, bring you as a plus one to like meet up, you don't have to be perfect as well. Just basic conversational Korean is so essential. I know people who've lived there for a long time who speak no Korean, and it does
That's
take a
always
toll.
insane to me. I
I
never
personally would find that too difficult because I don't like being left out the loop, and I want to be, yeah, I want to keep, and it helps. And yeah, I couldn't live like that. Not being able to
never got
converse with anyone, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I
like
feel like
how are you
that's
going
with
to
any country. There's another layer to it when you can speak and understand.
yeah,
another
definitely.
thing that kind of frustrated me, I think I was so afraid of being the stereotypical ignorant American going over there or whatnot.
Yeah,
That's why I made sure to stay on my P's and Q's and I was taking learning the language pretty seriously or whatnot. But I never
mm,
understood when you could live in the country for an extended
yeah.
period of time and not speak a lick of the language whatsoever. Like
I, I mean, I get
you
it, but
can't even
it's
order off the
difficult.
menu.
Yeah,
It
that's
is difficult, but like
yeah,
if you can't order off the menu, would not place an order for yourself. What are you doing?
yeah. I mean, it's a thing of like, I think it's difficult short term, but long term, it's way more difficult to live with not learning the language. Like, it does take, like, for example, like, I've basically been learning it for like almost 3 years now. And yeah, I'm far to where I'd want to be, because you got to think if you're going to be if you're going to get married, this is what I was thinking. Like, let's say I get married here, right, and live here until I die. All the little things you don't even think about doing your native tongue, you've got to be able to do. Like your kids, like cello, graduation, whatever, like, or going to like a parents teachers conference, or like knowing who to vote for in an election. You need to live the life I want to live. You got to be able to understand all of that, right? Or I want to personally. It's just like, dude, if you're struggling with the coffee menu, bro, you got a long way to go. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's like getting a base down where you can learn. Because I think now I've got the base. It's just learning extra vocabulary until I die, basically, right? That's pretty much it. And it's gonna take forever and cultural references and stuff. But yeah, basically that's. And
Like
I
you talked
think,
about.
mm, sorry, go on.
Oh no. Well, like you talked about with yeah, you can have a Korean friend that speaks good English or that's fluent in English or whatnot. When they introduce you to a friend, you don't want to just sit there and
Mm.
just like stare at each other, just be like, oh, even if basically, 혹시 취미가 뭐예요? What's your hobby?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, and the look of surprise. I always like that surprise. Like, oh, what's my hobby? Oh, I
mm,
like the surprise that the language is very big, and I kind of feel like I've said that multiple times now, but I really feel like that's something that people overlook when they say you're doing study abroad in another country. Even then, that's like the biggest thing. I have stressed that so much to people who have
mm,
said that they've been thinking about going over to Korea for a study abroad semester. I'm like, learn the language, even if it's basic.
yeah. And I think that's the
Learn
thing.
it.
I've heard a lot about people being like, it's really hard to make friends in Korea, which I agree to a certain extent because they're like, once you learn the language, I'm not sure it's just my experience, but like people want to be friends with foreigners. They think it's cool. They kind of like to
Yes.
flex, like, dude, I've got like this like British friend and stuff. It's like I go to a boxing gym and I think my treatment has been so preferential. because I'm foreign. Like everyone wants to spar with me, or maybe they want to punch me. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But like everyone wants to spar with me, and like everyone wants to work out, and it's like because like, but if I couldn't speak it, they didn't speak English, so maybe it would be that awkward thing. So I think even to a basic level, learn the language, and then I think club is like a good, not like a nightclub, but like sports, martial art, painting, something where the language isn't the center of attention. Like you, when you're doing a sport, if running's running, you don't speak, or art's art, you know what I mean? So I think finding a good hobby, and that's going to chill you out as well, and feeling a part of the community, because when you're separate in your room, doom scrolling on like TikTok or Insta Reels, whatever, you're going to crash out. So you just got to keep your mind, in my experience, just keep your mind active and like whatever makes you happy, I guess. Just try something that can kind of get you involved. Otherwise, you feel completely separated from the society. And that's when the crash out is going to start. You got to, stay sane.
When you say crash out, what do you make? Because I think we have a different definition for
No,
crash out in the
I
US
think,
versus
no, I know. Crash out is just like freak out in it. But I think I was an
yeah.
exaggeration. I was exaggerating the crash out. Yes, crash out is dependent on the person. But I mean, like, I'll be like, dude, I want to go back. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, yeah, no, not crash out like smashing up a shelf or something, no.
Yeah.
But like more in the
It was
sense of
like,
like,
yeah, when you said you've had a couple of crashes, I'm like, oh, wow. How did
my police record's squeaky clean, but it's more like feeling like hopelessness. Like,
oh,
dude, what am I doing? Because I
right.
remember I was at one point where I was like, yeah, like this isn't for me. Like, you can get through that. I think that's anything. Trying anything hard, you're gonna have like doubts, right? But I think, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what separates it.
Austin, were you about to say something?
No, no.
No, I just
Go ahead.
wanted to be sure with that. But, like, it seems that just taking that into consideration and looking after your mental health is really important because it's easy to really recluse yourself
Yeah,
and
definitely.
get lost in your own thoughts. And I do appreciate the running club always having something to do. Like, hey, do you want to come to this? We're getting ready to go have dinner. You want to come? And
Mhm.
always making sure to include me. And then sometimes being like, hey, you're coming.
Yeah,
And
Mhm.
because, it not only times to practice my Korean as well, but just that basic human to human interaction. And like you said, with people being friendly to foreigners, for the most part, yeah, I
Mm.
agree. I remember one time it was like, I want to say 10:30 at night by campus or whatnot. And I was like walking to the corner store and just, in just like my slides overcoat. And it was real. I looked really goofy or whatnot, and I had my headphones on, and it started raining, and I'm like, whatever, it's fine. And then I notice a random man like comes up next to me, like really close to me or whatever or whatnot, and I'm like, he's holding something. I'm not paying attention to what he's holding, and I just like give him a fist bump or whatever. I'm like, what the hell are you doing so close to me? I'm like, oh, you're shielding me with your umbrella. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
what always trips me up, like I'll start talking in Korean and they respond back in perfect English, like, "Oh yeah, no problem, man."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like, "Oh, you're from America? Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, it's raining right now. The weather's not too good."
And that's a wholesome story, That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I have had some pretty wholesome stories. Like even one, I think he was a freshman. I'm walking by campus or whatnot. You know where Emart is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm walking on the sidewalk on our side of campus, and random freshman or sophomore stops me or whatever or whatnot. He's like, "It's so nice to meet you. I've always wanted to meet a foreigner." And whatnot.
Mm.
He's like, "Can I give you a hug?" I'm like, "Sure, I guess." And some really wholesome moments like that. And so, again, like I said before, me lowering my expectations was really good because I'm
Yeah.
like, "Wow,
Yeah.
such a great
Mhm.
experience," which I truly have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even to the fact, like, I've met some here too, and yeah, like Aiden said, it's like kind of like a flex to just
Yeah.
yeah. I think actually
Yeah.
like a couple of weeks ago, I was just at a bar with some friends, and like the table next to us, they were from Liverpool, so we
Oh
just like
no. Yeah.
like hitting it off and chatting a lot, so that was pretty funny.
You could understand them all right. The accent wasn't too thick or whatever.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, even me, I go up to Liverpool sometime. I've got no idea what they're talking about.
What do you think is like? We touched on this a little bit with the K dramas or whatever or whatnot, but what would you say is like the main difference between Korean media and dramas or whatnot versus like, back home in the West or whatnot? To me, it seems like they're very focused on the romantics of them,
Mm,
where the guy is
yeah.
very masculine or, comes in to save the day or whatever, whatnot. Very traditional gender roles or whatever, whatnot. It's really the main focus is that a couple getting into a
Mm,
relationship,
yeah.
a fairy tale relationship. Would you agree with that?
Definitely. And I think I completely understand, even though they're not really for me, I think, but I know I'm not, when they're making a drama, they're not thinking about what a 23-year-old English guy is going to think about it, right? So I know I'm not the target market, but I completely understand, I think, from a girl's perspective, why you would enjoy a show like that. I think, you know, in the West, so much of our romance or just dating stuff is geared towards kind of sex, basically. Like you'll see it a
Yeah.
lot. And I think for a lot of people, and in this case, because I think again, it's mostly from the girl's perspective, dating this 6 foot, like 6'6" model CEO. Like it's for a girl, right?
Lamborghini.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's like it shows a more wholesome side, which I think a lot of people miss in Western media now, where it's like I don't want to see them like doing hard drugs and like doing all this like gross shit in the first episode. I want like an actual nice, more wholesome, down to earth love story about two people. Otherwise, they're super like innocent, cute, first love, high school, maybe an older couple who are like rekindling a romance. It's like I think that's kind of something that's not being made that much in the West, from at least my understanding. So I think it kind of fits that. I think if you did make a show, also you couldn't make a show like I don't know what's a good example. Like what's the one with Zendaya? What's the one with the
Euphoria.
You couldn't make a Euphoria in Korea. Culturally, it doesn't make
Culturally,
sense,
no.
right? So I
Yeah.
think actually some Koreans enjoy watching that just to see what it's like. But I think generally, and then from the Western perspective, they want a cute, wholesome, takes them 8 episodes to hold hands and then 60 episodes into kiss. Like these kind of like slow burning, nice romance love stories. Which I think that's why it's so popular in the West, I think.
It's kind of, I've noticed also as well that like the biggest cultural difference that was kind of like a frustration for me coming over here is that for running club, the music choice, it just, I'm
Yeah.
like, Korean music, it's very positive. It is very wholesome, like super shy. But for me, I'm so used to listening to something that is more frankly more violent, whatever or
Mm.
whatnot, to get me hype and to get me going, like Highway to Hell or like Skinhead by Kanye West. And it like, it isn't that the Koreans don't think that those are, bad songs or whatever or whatnot. They, it's just not, it's not the same. Like even with the more graphic sounding songs that we're used to listening to, that I'm used to listening to, yeah, like you said, it would not fly in Korea whatsoever. I even remember
Mm.
playing one song by Sexy Red or whatever or
Oh
whatnot,
no.
and well, granted, not it wasn't allowed. It was like I gave my headphones to my Korean friend.
Right,
I was
right,
like,
right.
"This is just yeah, like this is just a sprinkle or whatever or whatnot." Well, granted, Sexy Red, she's like
Right,
the extreme side.
that's yeah. I was gonna say you
She's
put
the
in the deep
extreme
end.
side of it, but and even then, just like the first couple seconds of the song is called Get It Sexy. It opens up, the background is like, take heat, up, bow, 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 bow. And then bow, 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 bow. Like the funny thing is when that song released, it went viral. And I
Mm.
was like it was granted, it was late at night and I listened to it on Spotify. And I'm enjoying the song and I'm I'm making like gun gestures with my hand, and I was like, "Oh, I'm in Korea. I need to stop. I need to stop immediately." And but yeah,
Mm,
that difference in their media is way more positive. You could hear it in their music, which is
mm.
great, and it makes you realize that, like, man, I am listening to some pretty violent stuff. Maybe I should
Yeah, I
switch it up a
think
bit.
that's the thing as well. I completely agree. I think they've got a kind of, which I mean, think I don't want to criticize the country that's let me stay here and get an education, but the one thing I dislike, I don't like the music. There's some music I do like, but I'd say typically it's a bit corporate. I think England has got it's produced some of the best music in the world, right? But then the artists are like, so many of them are nuts, and then they get away with stuff Korean artists would be cancelled for in the if the Oasis brothers were Korean, they would not make an album. The way they're getting like fights in the street and drugs and all this stuff and like swearing in interviews, like Korean artists, I feel bad for them because they constantly have the spotlight. Like the recently Suga from BTS, he was on a bike, he got drunk, rode a bike, fell off the bike. People were asking him to be kicked out of BTS. I'm like, dude,
It's insane.
that's a
Like,
quiet night in for an English musician. You know, that's like a afternoon, like a day out. Like it's so. I think the norm writes their own song, or most people don't write their own songs, and they have to keep a public, family-friendly image. Even the rappers, you know, so it's like it's hard to take it kind of seriously, you know. So that's the one thing I
even
dislike. It lacks character and soul, you know.
it's
Mm.
very it feels very crafted image.
Yeah, they're acting.
And
They're acting
yeah.
24/7, you know.
And I even remember briefly like one K-pop artist. He had a bottle, like one of the classic bottles of Coca-Cola of him drinking it. He wasn't even like purposefully flashing it or whatever,
Mm.
whatnot. He just casually like took a drink from it or whatever, whatnot. And people were trying to say that he was doing a product placement without giving proper disclosure or
Oh,
whatever, whatnot. And he
mm.
had to, come out and be like, hey, that wasn't a product placement whatsoever. I'm sorry that I gave that impression. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, man.
Yeah.
Even I remember joking with my friend, the one that's from Finland or whatnot. I'm like, I would not, because I kept on really thinking about, even talking with my tutor, like, if I were to move, I could see myself moving to Korea and staying there
Mm.
for some time. I've experienced the good, I've experienced the bad, and I see why people move over there and stay there a long time. But I know for a fact, entertainment for me is not going to be an option. I am
Yeah.
too opinionated and I am too stubborn to keep up a well crafted image. Like it would only be a matter of time before I just fly off the rails. And like if I get a hate comment from someone online, I'd probably be like, okay, you are very ugly. Well, how's about you turn on your camera? Let's see what you look like. Huh? As a matter of fact, let's go to your page right quick. Let's see what there's like would not I
That's
would
why they
crash
get
out.
cancelled. So yeah, that would be a great. No, but like there's this. I hope I get this right. I'm sure I can be corrected by a listener if I'm wrong. But there was this. There's a artist called Karina, like really really attractive. So like every guy in Korea thinks she's like the prettiest girl in the world. And then she got into a relationship, had to give a formal apology to her fans for being. It's like if I got into a relationship and people are complaining, I'd be like, dude, do it yourself, man. Well, why are you worrying about who I'm getting with, man? Mind your own business, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and then
Mm.
also like I think the problem is people forget like Sugar from BTS is a great example because I was talking to someone about this. I'm like, bro's in his like mid 20s, late 20s, and you're getting annoyed at him for drinking in the street again, like being okay. He made a mistake. I don't think it's the end of the world. He's being a dumbass when he's drunk, right? As everyone at uni, you guys all do that all the time. Like you go to Conde High Street, there's a billion drunk people like lying in the street. How are
Yeah.
you? Why? You're not on a pedestal. People in glass houses like shouldn't be throwing stones. Like I genuinely do not understand it. Like he should not be able
What's
to make music because he got drunk in the street once. Like I
it's
don't. Yeah.
insane. It
Yeah.
really ties into this perfection,
Yeah.
this, being so concerned with image. It isn't necessarily because, you know, I realized it isn't because they necessarily want to; it's because they have to.
Yeah,
It's
it's because
just
they
the way
started
it
like that,
is.
so they got to maintain that kind of like he's this 26-year-old guy. What do you want him to be doing at the weekend? Of course, that's all 26-year-olds do is go out drinking. Like, what do you expect? Like finger painting at home? Like, yeah, he's gonna go out to a bar. Like, why are you shocked?
I even remember my freshman year of college, I was never a party guy or anything like that, but even just going around campus and seeing the amount of drunk people. There was even one guy, I think they picked him up, they scraped him off the road, but he was in the middle of the road, like left for dead. Like his
Yeah,
friends left him for dead in the middle of the road, and everyone's like, oh, wow, that sucks. Someone should, like, you know, get him out the road before he gets ran over, and they eventually did. But yeah, the amount concern for image, it is. I would not want to. I know I wouldn't be an idol. I wouldn't. I wouldn't let
yeah,
me do performance. I'm not that
yeah.
pretty. I'm. But even then, I would. I could see myself just like easily crashing out, like the
Yeah, the
slightest bit
crash
of
out would be insane. Yeah.
the slightest bit of disrespect from someone, some rando on the internet. Oh my goodness, I would have a field day. But there, yeah, no, not for me.
So would you say that there's like a pretty like, I guess huge like kind of like I don't know if I want to call it gossip, but like news spreads fast. Like if someone does something, that doesn't look
Yeah,
good, then
yeah.
everyone
I
talks
think it's
about
the
it.
same as like TMZ, right? If a celebrity makes a mistake, TMZ are on it. But it's like
Mhm.
TMZ, it'd be like an affair or like a big drug. It's like kind of big. I don't think it's an invasion of privacy, but it's like kind of a big deal or a big social like faux pas. But in Korea, it's
Mhm.
just okay. Some of it's yeah, some of it's fair enough. But like drink driving and stuff is a big thing for celebrities. But like some of it's over the smallest thing to the point I'm like, dude. They're a singer. They're not. They're not Christ resurrected. I don't know why you have these super high expectations of them. They go there to. I mean, maybe that's the English perspective because we've got some of our best musicians are, you know, have drug problems or they do and that's kind of their
Alcohol.
persona, right? It's their persona. If like I'm keep using him as an example, but if Liam Gallagher, because they're going to do a reunion soon, so it's like fresh on my mind. But like Oasis, if they weren't that kind of loud, brash, swearing on TV and like they wouldn't have that kind of edge. Or if Amy Winehouse, part of she was known to be a drug addict, but that made her music so beautiful, and then it's without that they kind of lose their soul, right? That's what music is. It's like about emotions, but then with Korean, they're all in the same line, doing the same dance. One's the cute one, one's the funny one, one's the sass. It's like yeah, your personality's not even real. You're not you. So I mean, it's not for me. I'm not going to hate on something. They can do their thing. It's clearly successful, but it's just I think it's fascinating.
It
Yeah,
is fascinating, and it's just very, very strict for them. And I do feel bad
yeah,
for some of the artists because, and it's also a whole process. You don't just become an artist.
mm,
Like everything, you have to compete. It's very
mm,
competitive, and it takes, like, they're in boot camps for this, and it
yeah,
takes years for them to basically, you're auditioning or interning and practicing day in and day out for like 3 or 4 years until you maybe get a premiere or a debut. And if that debut doesn't go well or whatnot, then, well, you're out of luck. And it is absolutely insane. I'm like, but granted, they one thing that can't be denied with their idols and artists, they look great. They look
yeah,
absolutely stunning.
yeah, all the time.
The standard, the beauty standard is absolutely insane. How's your time been with martial arts? Because I know when I was leaving, you were like you wanted to get back in. That's freaking
Dude,
hilarious. How like
yeah,
you like, hey Romeo, do you do martial art? Like, yeah.
because I
Well,
love
your
watching
pictures on.
UFC. I loved watching UFC,
Okay.
but boxing is great, man. The boxing gym is like it's old school. Like, it's really old school gym. But like it's super dirty, and the coach is like rude and shit. But it's got that kind of it's like super manly. It's fun. But like the guys are super chill as well in the gym, and like I've made like loads of like good friends and stuff. Like I don't have that many friends at school, so like because I don't. Like, what are we gonna talk about? It's like I'm just gonna make conversation with like a random person, like not really. So when you're with someone like doing a sport, it's easy to make friends. Boxing's dope. I love it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm trying to get into better shape. I got kind of fat over summer break. I was like drinking too much beer with Connor, so
You were
I'm trying to like
bulking.
cut that. Yeah, beer bulking.
You weren't getting fat. I mean, like even then, I'm like, I've seen your recent stories, man. I'm like, you mean getting fat? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Dude, because I gained like five. Because I when I came to Korea, I was super skinny. I was like, what like I was less. I think I was like 150 pounds at like six
Hmm.
two. So I was like super always like skinny. But now I'm like almost. I'm 200 now. I weigh myself today. I just hit 200 pounds and like that's
Wait,
over
wait, wait,
like
wait, wait.
a year and a bit.
200 pounds.
I'm 90 kg now. Yeah. I checked, but I just ate lunch, so I don't think I'm actually 90 pounds. I think I'm like probably like
Just say one.
I'm probably like 180
Wait,
and 198, and then I had like 2 kilograms of like chicken and rice for lunch. But
so
yeah,
you are bulking, yeah. So how did you
uh,
like that protein powder I left you? Was it
dude, yeah, it's good. It tastes good, but I can't mix it with the when they do it with milk, kind of like clumps up because I don't have a
lumps
blender.
up? Yeah,
But I
Yeah,
mean, with
it
water, it's better.
coagulates.
It coagulates, yeah. But with the water, it's good. It is good, man. Thank you for that because it's one of the things I never bought because it's like 50,000 won. I'm not spending that. Actually,
not right.
eggs.
Like I got that from Costco, and I you should have seen my face when I realized there was a Costco in Korea. I'm like, it was like I was teleported instantaneously back home. I'm like, ah, yes, consumerism,
Costco's
massive
the
amounts
best,
of
bro. Yeah, I need to
massive
find
amounts
someone
of
in the membership.
marketing.
Yeah.
I
Hey man,
gotta get
people.
an American friend. Yeah, go to
Yeah, I was saying,
Costco.
yeah, people shit on America, but I'm like, dude, we have access to the best products in the world, and like we can get
Bro,
Amazon Prime for everything. Like,
Bucky's. I
I
need
get
to
a
go to
pork
Bucky's.
bake.
yeah, oh
Um,
Bucky's, that's a southern thing.
I need to go to
Man,
Bucky's.
I still have not been to Bucky's.
yeah, neither have I, and I am in
Yeah,
like area where I'm at, and like you notice like with the MMA gym that I went to, they do not mess around with their cardio. Like
Yeah.
we were doing
Oh.
circuits, and those circuits were beating us because
Mm,
it's
yeah.
taking all aspects of
yeah,
boxing as well,
Mm,
and even with shadow boxing, I'm like,
yeah.
uh,
Because
but
I've been here for like 3 months, so I started doing sparring, and I'm sparring with the now I'm bigger. I'm sparring with the big lads, and they're bro. There is people think like Koreans like were like skinny, like no, these guys are big. There's like rug player type guys, and like after one round, I was gassed. I was so tired. Like I've never been so exhausted in my life. So my coach was like, "Well, how much road work do you do?" I was like, "None."
road work.
Like road work, like
yeah. What
running
is
and
that?
stuff, like running and stuff, like just doing like
Mm.
running for long distances to get your cardio. Like, well, I'm not running really. She's like, "Yeah, you should be running like 5K like 4 times a week." I was like, damn, on top of coming to the gym like 4 times a week, you want me to
Yeah,
go running? It's like tomorrow morning, I'm gonna go running for class, try and get a 5K in. Yeah, it's cardio because even then you're doing like skipping for like 15 minutes to start your workout, shadow boxing for 15 minutes. Then you're doing bad. It's all cardio. Boxing's so much of it's cardio in us. But yeah, it's
I
tough, man.
remember one of the other big guys that was around my weight class. Shout out to my like even with him, it was like, yo, man, like sparring was very much. I'd say that I enjoyed it a lot, and it made me appreciate it, like, and realize how much I'm like stamina, cardio
Mm.
is key. Yeah, you can have muscle or whatever, whatnot, but that'll only get you so far. Because like even when rolling, I would always have invoke the strategy of like I'm going to let you do the work. All right, I'm going to be
Mm.
chilling. I'm going to wait until you give me an opening, whether it's opening for an armbar or a triangle choke or whatnot. But the problem with that is that that only works up to a certain level. When you're going up against someone that knows what they're doing, that allows them to dictate the tempo. And so
Yeah.
there would be times when, I'm sparring against someone who is my size or greater or whatnot. And what I was told wouldn't over here or whatnot, we are mainly focused on do not give an opening unless extremely necessary. So, but for them, at the same time, you're losing points because you're on your back because your opponent has more control time. So my coach, every single time I'm basically like pinned down or whatnot, I'm
Mm.
trying to, I don't want to exert too much energy because I'm going to gas myself out and leave myself open for submission. But I'm just, wiggling, trying to shrimp or whatever, whatnot, trying to feel out my opponent or whatnot. My coach is like, Romeo, escape, escape. He's just like, escape. I'm like, sir, doesn't mean anything goes in him. Right, that is just not an option right now.
Yeah,
As someone who is my weight, who is over 200 pounds on top of me right
yeah.
now, like
It's
that's
heavy,
just
bro. They're big
yeah,
boys.
and it's not, it's just not that easy. But it was always really, it was fun because I remember at one point in time when I was doing a circuit with them or training or whatnot, I was showing that I was really exhausted or whatnot, and I fucking ripped off my fucking shirt. I'm like, oh. And they're like, okay, let's fucking go. He's, it was a great time or whatever, whatnot. So, like you said before, when it comes to people saying that they're having difficulty making friends in Korea, I think I see what they mean and I can
Mm.
understand that, but it also feels like my immediate question is like, okay, well, what are you doing? Are you putting in the effort
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
to make friends? Because regardless of where you're at, I don't care what anyone says, it's difficult making friends. Some countries it's easier than others, but you know that you're in a foreign country, different
mm.
culture, with the language barrier being the biggest
Yeah,
hindrance or whatnot. And to be honest with you, if you just show that you're putting in effort, they're going to work with you.
yeah. 100%. Wait, Austin. So, are you? When you say you're into fitness, what kind of are you into like gym and running and stuff? What kind of fitness do you typically do?
So I basically just lift weights. I
Yeah.
walk around a lot because in New York City,
Mm,
I've been wanting to get into a little bit of volleyball, and
mm.
Romeo keeps asking me about this, and I keep putting it off. But I've been wanting to try my hand at like Muay Thai or BJJ.
Yeah.
You know how Muay Thai gets down. They
Yeah.
do
Muay Thai's
shit.
crazy. Yeah, Muay Thai's
They
cool.
I'm like I am not afraid of any other martial arts practitioner except for except for Muay Thai. That's like I'm like, ooh,
I'm not getting
no.
elbowed. I'm not getting elbowed in the
But
face, bro. I don't want to fuck. I've got British
That's
teeth to
fair.
begin with. I don't want to get a. I don't want to get an elbow to my British teeth, bro. No way.
well, well, even then, it wasn't until we started doing bag work with our low kicks or whatnot, even the simple I like to call it the flick kick or
Yeah.
whatever. It looks like it's just a little kid kicking the bag or whatever, or whatnot, like
Mm,
a quick little flinch or whatever. It's like, oh wow, that doesn't seem like it hurt. No,
that hurts.
that
Yeah.
hurts. Especially the tie kick. I love a good fucking tie kick. Just hearing the sound of your fucking ankle hanging bag or whatever or whatnot,
Mm,
just wow, the chef's kiss. But you think to yourself that okay, this is the amount of force that I am putting in on my end on the bag. I can only imagine how it feels to be on the receiving end.
Mm,
And you even
yeah.
notice that even guys who have been doing Muay Thai and martial arts for a long time, they're using the briefcase. They're using the
Mm,
square pad to absorb the kick or whatnot and shin guards. Those kicks hurt.
yeah.
Yeah, they're no joke. Well, Austin, I think you should do Muay Thai, with
oh
JJ.
yeah, yeah. With all that said, I should I should sign up immediately.
Well, it's one thing you realize when doing martial arts is how intense and how exhausting it is. So when you do see people who do it professionally and the amount of
Mm,
cutting that they have to do to make weight
Hmm.
is insane. So you have a great deal of understanding and respect for what they do. And it makes you realize I like getting into jujitsu because I'm put in situations where I literally have a 210, 220 pound guy that's on top of me,
Mm.
and they're trying to literally kill me right now.
Mm.
And I can just calmly just navigate the situation or whatever, whatnot. You gain confidence by keeping your composure in those situations. And I'm sure you can attest to this. You're like, okay, if I were to get into conflict, which in Korea, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be fighting in
Yeah.
Korea like that. You will go
Mm.
to jail and you will get locked up. It's not a fun time. Don't do that. If you're a foreigner like us, they will Amazon Prime you back to your country of origin.
Dude, I got punched in the face like last semester, and like,
Oh,
oh
yeah,
my
That's
yeah, I
God.
fair.
remember you telling me
Yeah.
this story. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, it's very juicy for the podcast, right? I mean, I think it'd be fun to talk about. So it was before midterms. So my friend's like, yo, we've got like 2 weeks till midterms. Next week we're going to be studying. Midterm week will be midterm, and so let's get a beer. And it was like Sunday night. So I was like, cool, actually, let's get a beer, man. Let's be naughty. And outside the convenience stores there, they have some wooden benches where you can drink and smoke and eat snacks and stuff. So we're like, talking, there's three of us. And then so we're here, and then the one next to us is this group of Chinese kids. As they're speaking Chinese, but they're super cool. And this drunk guy, like blackout, wasted guy, comes up speaking to me. And again, like I can speak decent Korean, but like this guy's, I don't know what he's saying. But I heard chukda, which is to kill or to die, right? So I was like, yo, is he threatening me? But he's not like a super big threatening guy. So maybe I thought I was too sick. There's clearly my arrogance came into play here because I was like, yeah, whatever, man. So I say like, dude, I worked as a bartender in London before I moved to Australia. So I know in these situations, you got to bring the kind of vibe down, relax him. So I was like,
Or
are you,
de-escalate the
yeah,
situation.
like trying to de-escalate it. Yeah. So I was like, dude, are you okay? Do you need that? Do you want me to call you a taxi? Like, do you need anything? And clearly I wasn't saying what he wanted me to say because he kind of brushes me off and goes like, whatever, and speaks to the Chinese kids. Now these Chinese kids, it was one guy with three girls and they didn't speak Korean very well. They just said like, piss off, basically. Like, you're fucking nuts, piss off, go away. They're doing the complete opposite of de-escalating the situation. So he gets mad and starts stomping on the bench, like lifting up his foot and like stomping down on the bench. And with these three
Wait, are
girls,
you
right? So I'm
sitting
like,
on the bench?
no, so I'm on the other bench. So
Okay.
it's like the one next to us. But I'm seeing this going on.
Ah,
And, I'm not Captain America. It's like, dude, you can't be kicking a bench with all these people on. So I stand up and I get between the bench. So I'm in front of the bench, like basically separating the bench from him. I'm like, dude, calm down. What are you doing?
so
Like,
he's stomping on a bench where people are sitting at.
yeah, where the Chinese kids are sitting and like
Ah,
knocking over their drinks and trying to kick the girls and stuff. So I was like, dude, you gotta like chill out, man. Like, and I didn't want to hurt. I know in Korea, if you punch someone, I'll lose my visa. I'll lose everything I worked so hard for. So, but it wasn't fighting. I just wanted to kind of chill the situation. And I'm like, can you just step back a bit? Because he's trying to get in my face. I was like, can you please step back? And he steps back. And obviously, I thought at that point, I was like, I'm that guy. Because I kind of turned back to my friends, like, yeah, I think it's all cool. And I immediately get punched in the face. And like, I don't know if you guys have ever been punched in the face, but like, it wasn't, I was just like, dude, it's like, I just got punched in the face. And like, you
exactly.
punch in a
You're
way
stunned. I was
where
like,
like, you just get punched in the face in Korea. Like, I thought because I'm in Korea, I am impervious to like getting assaulted. But like, the way he punched as well, he left his front knuckle out. He kind of had one knuckle protruding
ooh.
forward, caught me right in the eye. So my right eye was just like not just watering, like I was crying, just like constant flow of water coming out my eye. So I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he just ran off into the night. And then, yeah, luckily I went to the police and we sorted it all out. But yeah, that was my experience getting assaulted. But then luckily I was like, because you kind of do have that thing of like, I kind of want to punch you in the face because you just punched me in the face. But then my friend was like, dude, your visa. And like I said, it's kind of slow
Yeah.
motion at that point. So I was like, yeah, I should probably just like not punch him in the face. And I didn't really want to punch him in the face either. It's like,
Hmm.
I
Didn't
wasn't
you say
drunk.
that you like, yeah, did you say you found him or something and he would have to like pay you back or something?
Yeah, so in Korea, it's like you go to the police station, there's CCTV everywhere. So they found the guy. He actually caused other trouble that night. And the police were really good, actually. I'd heard a lot of horror stories about police in Korea, but at least in my experience, they were really helpful. Maybe because I could speak Korean, it was like less burden for them. And yeah, they found out who he was. And then they say, well, do you want us to prosecute him or do you want him to pay you like an apology fee? So he doesn't get a criminal record and you get money. So it's like a 50, you both kind of win. So I was like, dude, I'm a lawyer. I don't have the time. Like my midterms is a week away. So I was like, dude, I don't have the time to get cool Saul Goodman to solve this problem or whatever. So I was like, just pay me money and then like we'll be fine. And then it was like, sorry, I was drunk. I didn't remember it. Because after that, they say we're done. We're done. The police are no longer involved with this case. We'll burn the file or whatever. So I just get a call from this guy like, dude, I'm so sorry. I was really drunk. I didn't remember anything from that night. I didn't remember punching you. And I was like, and then we had to make our own thing, go to the police station, sign how much he's to give me over what period. And then, yeah, we kind of figured it all out.
Yeah, that was actually insane. Like, yeesh. The thing I do miss about Korea, not only is the country beautiful and there's a lot to do, and you don't have to drive an hour or 30 minutes to go to that place or whatever, whatnot. You could take public transportation. It's more so, and maybe you could speak on the warmth for when it comes to the friendships with your Korean friends, because like once you're in, quote unquote, you're in.
Mm.
Um, I've noticed that I was constantly surprised. I'm like, why are y'all being so nice? It's like,
Yeah.
like even small gestures, like let's say you're in the library or whatnot, and your friend they bring you, I don't know, a bar of chocolate or
Mm.
some uyu or some milk or whatever, whatnot. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, we don't really have that in the US. I mean, we may have that, with friends occasionally, but I think it's exceedingly rare for even small stuff like that. It's the little things that go a long way.
Yeah. Definitely. I think people focus so much on the negatives on Korea and like the differences culturally and how different it is and how much it sucks. Like, dude, there's actually loads of nice people. Like, actually,
Yeah.
I've had a way more positive experience with negatives here. Like, I think because it's clicks with social media, right? You want the most outrageous, crazy stories and the negatives because that's going to bring up the most interest. But today, everyone's pretty polite. Everyone's kind of just doing their job. Like, I think as a foreigner, some people, especially on TikTok, maybe you get the kind of main character syndrome of, oh, I'm a foreigner in Korea. I have this like specific crazy life and like blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
dude, everyone's got a mortgage. Everyone's got kids. Everyone's got their own troubles. And day to day, like I said in the beginning of the recording, it's like it's kind of like everyone's doing their own thing. You're not important. You have very little significance, which is a kind of a good thing, right? You can just kind of get along with your own thing, make your own friends, form a community, do what you want to do. I think if you don't impact people, you have a great time. And it doesn't like burden them with like problems and stuff. You get along quite well.
Yeah, you are, especially to the Korean grandmas, you are insignificant. You are an annoyance. And
Yeah,
I love the old people so much because they don't give a flying.
nah, bro. Yeah, they don't
And
care.
like, everyone is I've noticed even like, let's say someone is in front of you and shalehamnida or whatever, whatnot. I had no
Yeah.
problem saying, excuse me. But even with regular people, that just doesn't seem to be the case. Either they'll just
Mm,
wait impatiently behind you and not say anything, or you're gonna get shoved. Which is it's nothing
mm,
personal. It's just the way it is. And I always thought it was hilarious when the old people they just don't care. They will shove you
mm.
left and right. You're in the middle of making your little TikTok or your little YouTube Shorts video that you're posting with a little dance routine. Yeah, they don't care. They're walking in front of you. They don't care. I love that so much for them.
Those kind of foreigners are the worst. The TikTok Korea foreigners, they just,
Oh,
yeah.
jeez.
I think
There too.
The TikTok anything is just like, dude, get out of the way, man. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, what would you say? Like, and I'm surprised we hadn't talked about this earlier, but work in Korea as a
Mm,
foreigner. I have found, even at the time I spent there, talking with international students or whatever, whatnot, I remember there was one Turkish student that he was living full time in Korea. He enrolled in Korean universities. He got his bachelor's in like Korean instruction. Basically, he's fluent in the language, certified to teach Korean, and he's currently getting his master's. I've also heard of other foreigners as well of them getting, regardless of nationality, they get their degrees from a Korean university, and they still have difficulty finding jobs. Would you say that
Yeah.
is that like a general thing for everyone, or is it exclusive to foreigners?
I mean, as we spoke about before, there's a lot of competition. Like every major city, I'm sure New York, Austin is the same. Like a lot of people in a small space, all trying to be that guy, trying to get that dream job. Like I said, I've still not graduated, so I don't know the specifics of the like landscape. But I think here's the thing you got to remember, right? Even if I graduate from uni, they still would prefer Korean, right? Like there's no, and it's not a discrimination thing. It's it's a lot less effort for them. It's more easy for them to have a Korean who have no cultural difference and no language barrier. It just makes sense, except for very specific things where it will be better to have a foreigner. So I think it's just like, yeah, you're at a disadvantage in some bits, but then if they need someone for the, you know, be the foreign representative of a company, you're going to get that opportunity. It's like there's good bits and bad bits, you know. And I think, yeah, like I'm kind of talking on my ass because I have still not graduated, but I just think it's difficult for everyone. On top of that, it's what do you have that makes you special? You got to lean more into that. Is what I've realized. Like, if I become an accountant and try and get in a Korean firm where there's like 50 other Korean accountants, there's no point in hiring me, right? Unless I'm a super accountant because it's just a bit of extra effort, especially because they have to worry about my visa and stuff like this. Why bother? But then if I was trying to work for a foreign company where they wanted, a native English speaker who can speak Korean, who represents the brand a certain way, then yeah, that would make sense, right?
Yeah, I think, of course, I don't know if my Korean tutor is going to listen to this or not, but every time I mention TikTok, he's like, you need to get off TikTok. Like I don't, which he's right, but like the thing I like with TikTok is that you get to instantaneously get people's perspectives about
Mm,
very niche things.
right.
And whenever I do see people, expats who, they moved from the US and they are living in Korea full time, it seems most of them are in some form of entertainment.
Mm,
And even, with, I'm pretty sure you've seen the videos from Asian Boss where,
mm,
though, yeah, they're in Korea and they're doing street interviews and, they ask foreigners like what they do. And most of it seems to be if you want a stable job, you're more than likely going to be an English teacher,
yeah, definitely.
regardless of your degree. If you want something that pays perhaps a little bit more, maybe not that much more or whatever, whatnot, it depends. You may be a model or a background actor
Mm,
or whatever, whatnot. It seems like the con with that is that it's really inconsistent work.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. I think there's definitely a job market for foreigners in Korea, but I think as well the reason most people go into English teaching is because of the language barrier. That's the one job where you are better equipped than the Korean. And of course, there are probably roles in companies. I'm sure in trade companies, it'd be a benefit to have a foreign employee, but you also need to be fluent in Korean. So I think there's not many foreigners of American or European like backgrounds who graduate Korean university. So at my university, I'm not sure if this is correct, but I'm told I'm the first British student who's a full-time student. So like, I'm sure in other unis there have been British students, but I just think there's just not that many. So that's probably the reason why.
gotcha. It seems, yeah, like you said before, it's all about finding your niche and being able
Mm,
to identify what makes you so special.
mm,
And I will say, because like for me or whatever, whatnot, I'm studying, studying a quote unquote difficult, yeah, it is difficult. I'm studying a difficult degree or whatnot, and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm going over abroad, I better be making good money, decent money
mm,
for the amount of blood, suffering, and tears just have gone through to get this piece of paper. I speaking for me personally, I think if I were to go over there and get a visa with degree, I would have a future God that I will have. It may be a bit easier, but still, even then, it's going to be a process because you know there are Korea's civil engineering is very good. Like,
Mm,
there's not that much that needs to be done with respects to civil engineering because they've already built up their infrastructure,
mm.
and it's just a matter of like maintaining it now.
Yeah.
Which you've got old people who are who are volunteering
Mm,
or doing it as a job or whatnot. But it makes me think a lot about like if I were to move over there full time, like what would I do?
mm.
Um,
I know a lot of
Perhaps like
people go to foreign companies as well, like foreign firms in Korea. You can get away with
mm,
being, yeah, not a native speaker and stuff.
yeah, it seems to be. I've heard success stories of people, not only foreigners, but people who look like me of getting corporate jobs in Korea. I'm like, oh wow, and
Mm.
even
Yeah.
perhaps getting advancing up the chain, which I'm pretty sure,
Mm,
as you've heard, is not easy. Of course,
mm,
it's definitely possible. It seems like you really just have to put in the effort, the research, and
mm.
time and whatnot,
Yeah.
and set really
Mm,
realistic expectations. Expectations.
yeah.
Yeah. What are the big industries there?
Tech. So like Samsung and stuff like that, and then auto like cars and stuff like that. They've got Kia and Hyundai. They're the biggest car brands. I think there's and then yeah, technology. I think they've put a lot because Korea has no natural resources, so they have to focus more into like yeah, more of the tech and stuff like that.
Like exporting,
Yeah, yeah. Mm,
exporting trade. I remember I watched a video called the Saemon movement. I don't know what that translates to, but
mm,
it was about the miracle on the Han River. Yeah.
mm,
Basically, the government, they realized that like, okay, we're pretty impoverished. We're sick of this.
mm,
We need to get this going or get our industry going, and they started exporting. Like one of the first major exports from Korea were wigs to the
mm,
U.S. Or whatnot, and then it was wigs, and then it became TVs, and then it became radios, then TVs, and that's how you got these corporations that got major tax breaks so that they could invest in the business to build up infrastructure and those international relationships to export stuff, and it took off from there. But
mm,
as time progressed, some companies failed, and really the vast amount of wealth, what's the word, consolidated into
mm,
a handful of families or groups. And
mm.
you got Samsung, you got what was it? It's another one, H and K.
Yeah,
That's SK or something like that. Yeah. LG, like you said, Hyundai, Kia,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah. With the chaebol, like the chaebol families, so it's like these
yeah.
specific comic which have like like yeah, the majority of the wealth basically on the country.
Which is it's 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 pretty
Yeah.
interesting because
I remember my
I've
one
been
time being there. Oh, sorry. I remember my one time being there.
yeah,
Isn't a Lotte pretty big brand?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
All of the malls and stuff like that, and the tallest building in Korea is owned by Lotte Tower.
Mm.
and I got a nice good picture because me and my roommates whatnot. Oh my goodness, I can talk about this. Oh my goodness. We got a picture, we were looking right at Lotte Tower right across the Han River, which
Mm,
was beautiful. It was awesome to wake up to that every single morning. It was a very beautiful view. One thing I did not like about being at the the Korean university is we were not allowed to have any guests. Like,
oh, in
mm,
your yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the only way you could have someone else in your room is if they lived in the same building as you. Other than that, no
Mm.
guests whatsoever. Also, the curfew as well. there's a curfew for the dorms. Like I'm like, what? Excuse me. And I'll ask this one final question.
Mhm.
What is your final message or a message that you want to, whether it be to yourself or to the rest of the world about Korea or whatnot or coming? Like, what is one thing you
Let
want
me let
to,
me
your main
let me address
message?
the word. I'll just say
Yeah.
for those people who are interested in coming to Korea for a holiday, I would say definitely. But in terms of living here long term, I know a lot of people when they're like 18, 17, they love Korean culture so much, like, oh, I want to live there when I'm older. I would say just don't don't be wearing those rose colored glasses. You know what I mean? You got to think realistically. The problems you have in your city are probably similar. They probably have similar, somewhat similar problems in Korea. It's not a different world, it's just a different country. So I'd say, you know, come with caution and don't have your expectations too high. It's not a drama. It's real life. That's a bit depressing.
Yeah,
But I was saying it's still good as well. It's still
no,
good. Like that
that's a
sounds really
bar.
depressing. But
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a drama. It's real life. I like that a
yeah.
lot. I'd say, more to your point, like if you think, I'd say you should just do a study abroad semester because 4 months
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
it's the
Doable.
perfect time for you to know whether or not you could stay there long term. You're not
Yeah.
there brief enough to where it's just a vacation, but you're there
Mm,
long enough to where you can understand and you can feel what's like living there or whatnot.
yeah, definitely.
But all in all, thank you very much for your time. We got
Oh,
quite a
thank
bit
you for
of
the
editing to do.
invitation. Yeah, I'm sure, sure.
Right, with this episode of the Thinking Podcast, I think I'd say that's a wrap. Thank you very much for listening with us, and we hope you enjoyed having your thinking cap on.